We had close to 10 300-pound cleaners, which at the high school levels, I think pretty good. We're 2-8. 2 years later, we had maybe one. And then we go 4 rounds deep in the playoffs. If I know a kid's jumping higher and farther, I know a kid's running faster, I know that kid is doing the right things in the weight room.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk.
All right, Monte, I'm going to jump this off with a topic that you've discussed on the podcast that I went through. And for those that are listening, we'll go through your origin story, so there'll be more context when we get to the training stuff and all the others later. But you have, close to 15 years coaching, most of that time with high school athletes.
Right.
I think it was almost 15, maybe closer to 17 or 20 years competing in powerlifting.
Since 2003.
2003. And so what I'm going to jump off with is when you're a strength coach and a powerlifter, the assumption is you're always going to train your athletes like powerlifters. And this is something that drove me nuts since I first started training people,
right,
going way back in college. And this is why this always kind of drove me nuts until I think it was Mel Siff pointed this out to me, is when people think that way and they make statements like that and you dial it back a little bit and you think if you played hockey, they wouldn't think that you're going to train all your athletes like hockey players. If you ran marathons, they would never think that you would train everybody like you would train to be able to run the marathons. If you did high rocks or 5Ks or anything like that, they would never think that you're going to train all your athletes like that, right? But if you're a powerlifter, it's different. So it says really more about them than it does about you.
Yeah.
The other part about that is with that assumption being made, then when they make the same assumption, if somebody came in that never trained at all, that was just completely out of shape and looked like crap, when they think then that person shouldn't be able to do the job.
Right.
But because somebody looks like they can do the job, they're going to pigeonhole them into this one thing, which after Mel kind of pointed that out, that they don't do it with any other sport. A lot of coaches, especially in the football coaches, as you've seen, they train, right? But it's more aerobic based.
Yes.
Like they're going to go and hit the treadmill and they stay in shape because they kind of have to because they're on the field.
Right. Because you're on a field.
And they do all that. But nobody would think that coach then is going to train everybody. Hey, all athletes come to the gym, jump on the treadmills, or we're just going to go out to the track and we're just going to run. I guess they did like 40 years ago.
Right.
But they don't do that. So it's after that, I quit even justifying the answer.
Yeah.
When people would say something like that, because it's like, okay, you have this prejudiced view of just this demographic that looks like they train, but not against any other demographic that doesn't look like it's really weird when you spin it back and think about it.
Yeah.
Here's the other part about that is I may be forgetting somebody. I've never met a competitive powerlifter at a higher level that trained their athletes like they train. Not when I think Dan Austin, right? It's been a strength coach.
South Carolina.
Forever. I'd be curious if people were thinking that. Are you going to train all your athletes? So now it's not just the powerlifters. It's only the ones that weigh over 275.
No, it is. That are ball headed. And, I'm a walking stereotype, right?
Yeah.
I'm big, I'm bald, I'm bearded. I don't have any tattoos yet, but it's one of those stigmas that even 20 years in, you still have to justify yourself. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why. I guess when you were talking about that, I'm like, well, the only thing I can think of is that powerlifting, there's a barbell involved. Training, there's a barbell involved. And so maybe they're trying to connect the two that well, this is how you're going to train. But
do they do that with Olympic weightlifters if they're still coaching sports?
That's a great question. I don't know many Olympic.
I don't either. No,
I know one that was a strength coach when I was a VMI, and he was a high level Olympic lifter, but I wasn't in that arena with him. So I don't know if he had to fight that or not, but as a power lifter, you're absolutely right. There's some kind of prejudice attached with that even at the places that I've been, there've been a couple spots where I've had to justify why, like this is what I do. This is what I've done as long or longer than you've been coaching, but yet you have an idea about how you want to train. But it doesn't work the other way around. It's not like the strength coach is going to the football coach saying, man, I grew up in the run and shoot offense, so I really think you should be, going 4 wide and airing it out. It doesn't happen like that. But the football coach or the sport coach per se always has an opinion on how you should be training.
So I'm wondering how that opinion will reflect on, let's say, a resume. They can't see you. Right. And there's really no reason to be able to put that shit on a resume. I don't know if it's really going to help you that much as a coach.
Right.
Right. It's here's my best squat, bench, and deadlift.
Yeah.
I don't know any.
It doesn't. Well, okay. So for that matter, like the certifications don't matter.
Yeah.
Everyone's got CSCS. Everyone's got, some kind of credentials, but does that really make you a good coach?
Don't you have to have one of them just for liability?
Yes. But that's where it stops.
So there's only like
liability.
There's only a couple that can offer that though, right?
There's CSCS and the college one, the CSCC.
Yeah.
Those are the two, premier gold standards. There's USA weightlifting, there's CrossFit, and there's other ancillary ones out there, but those are on a job posting. They're going to ask you to have one of those too. But again, that doesn't, just going back to your numbers, it's got the same amount of weight as it doesn't mean you can coach. It just means that you're certain. It means you pass the test.
Yeah.
That's all it means.
Basic level of education.
Yeah. This is enough to not be held liable if you screw somebody up. Or if you do screw somebody up, then this says that you at least were knowledgeable enough
to not do
it.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Like it's just an entry point. So, you're right. It's both of them to me don't really have an impact on how you are as a coach or the job you do.
Well, it's kind of been odd to me because it will bring back the never ending debate of should you coach if you never trained?
If you never trained. Yeah.
Right. And there's no right or wrong answer to that because there's so much nuance that kind of plays into all that. Because what if, you can no longer lift the numbers that you did, 7 years ago.
No.
Right. So are you less of a coach?
Right.
And if the numbers were higher, are you more of a coach?
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah. And I tell my kids all the time, how strong or weak it doesn't have an impact on what you do. It doesn't matter how strong I am. Like there was one day we were walking down the hall and I was, jawing back and forth. He's like, with one of our skill guys, like, Coach, I'm faster than you. You're supposed to be faster than me.
Yeah.
You're not out there covering me. So why am I if I'm your barometer, you got bigger problems, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So go ahead.
No, I was just to say, like, the ability of the coach doesn't really factor into the effectiveness of the coach. It can. And I think in a lot of ways, it can get you in the door. It can give you a jumping off point. Like, hey, let's bring this guy in. He's done some things athletically. But you and I know the best athletes aren't the best coaches. Just because somebody's strong doesn't mean they know how to make somebody else stronger. And so that ability piece it shouldn't be tied to the effective piece.
Yes. The one counter I would have to that is if you've done it yourself, and long enough, right? The numbers kind of matter, but they don't because everybody's genetic ceiling is going to be a little bit different.
Right.
Got to that point and tried to push it, then you kind of learn without knowing you're learning the ability to kind of auto-regulate your training. And I don't know of any other way to do that. And it's something we've been working on for a while now.
Yeah.
Like, how could we say do a certification on that?
Right.
And
no, you can't.
I don't think you can,
No.
because you can have every metric, every variable, every
Right.
wearable, everything that you can have, and you can kind of help guide,
Right.
but there's still a point, and I'm sure you hit it in your own powerlifting career,
Yeah.
where you're starting to make micro decisions on everything
Yeah.
based upon how you came in, how you feel.
Yeah.
Is this real? Is this me fucking with my own head? You know, all these
Yeah.
different things that kind of play into that. I don't know how, because if you don't know that, then you're working with other people,
Right.
right?
Right.
You have to know how to, and I guess it would lead into knowing what the nonverbals you're seeing actually mean.
Right.
Because if you
Right.
train with a crew or you've seen yourself,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
hey, I can push this kid. He's just not pushing himself, or no, something's going on,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And that goes back to the art of coaching, right? You know, you can read a textbook and you can get and really what you're describing, I feel like is kind of my upbringing, because I don't have the science background. Like I didn't go to college for exercise science or biomechanics or
What was education, right?
it's PE. Yeah. Just physical education. Like
It's,
basic.
now my notes say a master in education.
I've got a master's in educational curriculum and leadership.
Okay. Well, that's how to coach though, in a way, kind of.
Is it?
Well, communication.
It can be. Yeah, it can be. Did I learn that in that master's?
Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
You learn that over the 20,
Mhm.
25 years of to quote you, under the bar.
Interesting.
I mean, that's where I learned it, because I didn't come up with, I didn't do my first internship till I was 32 years old. Like,
Now, when did
that's
you
about
start competing?
2003.
So what age?
23.
Okay. So you
20,
got close.
22. 20, I was
Okay.
22.
So what got you into that?
To competing?
Yes. Was it while you were playing football?
Yeah, you know, so in high school, I mean, obviously I played football, but we got powerlifting my senior year. We had a new coach come in, position coach, and he brought powerlifting. So I competed my senior year of high school.
And this was Texas.
In Texas high school powerlifting. Yeah.
So what does that look like as an actual lifter? I'm super curious about this because it's huge.
Well, and it's a lot bigger now than even, it was big back then, but it's blown up now. So what's it look like? It looks like
Show up in the gym and they give you a suit, you know, and
I
say
mean,
squat.
That's pretty much, you know, my high school training consisted of benching 3 times a week. We had our head coach was a former NFL running back, a phenomenal human being. Like he's why I'm coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a huge dude, you know, going to bench 400 pounds. Well, that was my goal. Like I wanted to be like Coach Hicks. I wanted to bench 400 pounds.
So wait a minute. So the high school powerlifting, is that being used to be able to be the strength and conditioning for football?
I think in a lot of places it is. And
It was with you.
It was ancillary. We still had our off season,
Yeah.
but back then, you know, it was the station, and I really don't remember it that well, but it was a station setup where we had like 3 squats, 3 inclines, standalone inclines, 3 standalone bench presses, 3 military presses. I didn't deadlift until my senior year. I never cleaned in high school. Like we bench, squat, incline, military press.
So
And
they're
that was pretty
using,
much it.
so,
But-
right. Interesting, right? Because
Yeah.
those that would criticize the coaches that just use
Yeah.
powerlifting to be able to train football,
Right.
we only have to look at Texas high school football to see that maybe it does work.
Well, I'm going to say it doesn't work.
Yeah.
There are,
We'll get into the nuances as we go
okay,
on,
good.
but
yeah.
but
Yeah, but no, it's
it's better than nothing.
better than nothing. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. It's better than nothing.
But is that all is that all they had?
Yeah, because we didn't have a strength coach. We had, I don't even know who was doing our training at the time. And I couldn't even remember really what that training was. I remember after school, would go back to school after school, and we would do 3 sets of 10. Bench, incline, pec deck, lat pull down, skull crusher, military press, leg extension, leg curl. 3 days a week, religiously for 4 years. My freshman year, I'll never forget this. My first bench was
The pec deck is interesting.
well, it's
Keep
just,
going, Mike.
because you got to build the shelf, right?
Yeah, I get it.
You know, but again, we were doing what our head coach
Mhm.
had told, and like I said, he a phenomenal athlete. But it worked. My freshman year, my first bench press was 155. I'll never forget it. I was like bottom 5. By the end of that year, I was benching over 300.
What was the body weight change from those?
Man, I remember my sophomore year, I was like 195. So my freshman year was probably 175, 185. You know, there wasn't a huge, I didn't start really ballooning until I would say maybe my junior year. I graduated senior year like 240 and then went to college, a sloppy, awful 270 because, well, I'm playing college defensive line. I got to get bigger. You know, you see all these, I was an awful football player. Terrible, terrible. And again, in retrospect, you know, and I tell our kids all the time, like, I'm the worst example of an athlete. Like, you do not want to be me. But again, it gives you it's kind of like the anti-argument, right? Like I'm here as a anti-example of what not to do. Because I did not have, I'm not gonna say it was wrong. It just, we didn't know. We were ignorant. We just didn't know, you know? That was also the time, like, you were turning to Flex magazine, like you were turning to Muscle Mag, you were turning to those for the workouts because there was no other frame of reference.
So for you, as you were going through those at that time, were you jumping into like bodybuilding bro splits? Here's why I ask, because in each one of those magazines, you'd be lucky to maybe have one article that was about powerlifting, hardly ever about Olympic weightlifting, but there was usually just one. Right. I think muscular development had one section. Flex, I don't think had any.
They did, no.
Strength and health might have had one. Were you more attracted to those, the strength ones, or because everything else was just the hypertrophy 3-day split?
Yeah, I guess back then it was more attracted to the hypertrophy bodybuilding side. Because again, that's what we saw. Like that's what was out there. Like I can remember going to college my freshman year and cut off jean shorts and a tank top, you know, because that's what Mike Matarazzo, you would see him in the, you know, Kevin Francois, you know, and those guys. There was not an exposure or knowledge of what we call strength and conditioning really until I remember in my junior year of college, we went to KU and got first introduced to bands. But even then I didn't make the connection about it. I was like, oh, these are bands. These are cool. But I had no idea. I had no idea about any of that probably until I graduated college. Until after I was all done, that's when you begin to get exposed to the internet and then like Deep Squatter. And then of course you guys, and then you just go down the rabbit hole there. But before then, it was just 100%, you know, bodybuilding and trying to look a certain way.
So you're going back to the dial-up days.
No, it's real. No, it's real. But that's like I said. Your stuff on Deep Squatter. It was it Jason Burnell? Yeah. So Jason Burnell. I mean, that was really the genesis for me of kind of beginning to learn. You know, that was also. I graduated in 2002. During that time had met a buddy, Mike Askew, older guy, but got me back into powerlifting after college. Cause up until, you know, through college, you're just training whatever they had us training. And I would even argue that wasn't great. You know, we didn't have a strength coach. It was, you know, 1 year was our DC, 1 year was our O-line coach. 1 year it was somebody else. There was never any continuity because it was small college football. But when I graduated, met Mike, hey, we're doing a powerlifting meet. So February of 2003, I miss my senior college team football banquet to go do my first powerlifting meet.
Okay. So that's the Deep Squatter thing.
Yeah.
When my older brother worked in IT at the time, and at that time I'm in Columbus, I'm training in Westside, and I'm working as a personal trainer. So we had a computer, right, at work, but it didn't connect to the internet. It was just to be able to read people's programs. And, God, I don't even know if we did the measurements that we had to do on people, the intake forms. They were still paper. And so he built a computer for me.
Wow.
And then when I went home, logged on, got on the internet, did what you get with the little fucking AOL or whatever it is. You know?
AOL.
and log on. There's two things I'm looking for. And the first one is Alaskan Malamutes, because I had one. It was doing sled drags with me. So I wanted to learn how to make my dog stronger, with the sled drags. That's and then awesome. Powerlifting. And that's how I found Deep Squatter.
Yeah.
And he was reposting articles from Louis, and then had like a Q&A.
Okay.
And so I'm reading the Q&As. I'm like, it's kind of not really what we're doing, because he's doing his best, because he's going off, speaking to Louis occasionally, and the articles that Louis wrote. But so I reached out to him, and God, I feel so sorry for him, because he would send me the question once a month. It would post.
Right.
He'd send me the questions. And I can't, at that time, I couldn't write for shit, man. So he had to edit the typos, and it was just a mess. And from that, I started doing seminars for Louis.
Right.
And then ended up at a seminar where somebody asked me if I wanted to have a website. I said, I do, because we had Jason Brunell made a website that was just like the ad we had in Powerlifting USA.
Right.
Like, here's the seminars, here's the dates. And I think we sold like a sled and a couple other things. I'm like, I don't need that. I already have that.
Right.
No friggin' idea. And that's how the Q&A started. Because he said, hey, I got a buddy that started this forum type thing.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. Right. Because I already found that.
Yeah.
Like, this is a nightmare. I don't want to deal with it. It's like, no, it's like an anti-forum.
Okay.
In that they ask a question, you answer, it's done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, let's do that. And that's kind of how it all started with that, which is, blast from the past, because the club and all the other kind of shit. But the other thing was, there wasn't really anything out there. There were like forums.
Right.
T-Nation.
Bodybuilding.com.
And then it got real dicey.
Well, there were certain gyms that had, so again, during that time, I became friends with some guys in Dallas, and they had a gym, they had a forum. And so you would post your workouts, and everybody, that's really how I learned a lot. And that's how you met people. That was social media before social media was around. Like, I think that's how I met Josh Bryant. That's how I met, a lot of different people, was just through either the gym forum, or then through like Outlaws, or, those other big forums that were out there. That's how you would scroll until somebody said something that piqued your interest. And then you filtered through all the nonsense and tried to figure out, and learn. But that was my learning. It wasn't academic. It wasn't, in a textbook. It was like guerrilla learning, because it was going to you guys and printing off every article. And again, it was T-Nation back then. So you're talking Predation Bible 1 and 2. You're talking about 8 keys. You're talking about, bench 500 easy, how to squat 800 pounds. Notebooks of highlighted stuff, notebooks of just information. Like, that was my learning. It wasn't super training. Yeah. It wasn't Verkhoshansky. It wasn't any of that. It was through the internet.
The heat is here, and I'm already hearing stories about people cramping and how it's screwing up their training sessions. The research shows optimal health outcomes at sodium levels 2 to 3 times the recommended level. As meatheads, we've known this for years. Element was built around this. For the past 2 years, I've used Element in my morning oatmeal. I put it in my coffee. I use it during training. Each stick has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. There's no sugar, no fillers. It's just what your body needs. Stable energy with no crash, maintaining optimal fluid levels for peak performance in the gym, improves mental focus, helps regulate stress, and supports deeper sleep. Element just outdid themselves with this lemonade iced tea flavor. Same formula, but they added 50 milligrams of caffeine with L-theanine and polyphenols. Unlike isolated caffeine, this slows the curve. We all know that caffeine can dehydrate you. Well, not when it's mixed with Element. Go to drinkelements.com. You get a free 8-count sample pack with every order. I've never heard of anyone having a bad experience, but if you do, they make it right immediately, no questions asked. Well, it's a weird time to kind of look back on, because during that time, I got to a point where I wasn't able to pay myself, but because I hired this business consulting thing, firm, E-Myth or whatever it was. It was a 4-year program at $500 a month. And that was about all I could afford.
Yeah.
And so as we're going through that, the first thing was to establish the aim,
Right.
or the vision of the company.
Right.
And that took like 6 weeks, because a lot of the back and forth was, at the time, the Q&A was it was called Ask Dave.
Right.
It was just me, answering questions, and
Yeah.
that was it. And
Yeah.
they were, after we established this vision of live, learn, pass on, they're like, this can't just be you. You're going to have to do all these other things to be able to grow the business and do what you want to be able to do. It can't just be you. I'm like, you don't understand.
Yeah. You're like,
Like, people are coming to be able to ask me.
Yeah.
Somebody else isn't going to be able to work.
No, it's
right?
like I am.
And then they convinced me otherwise. I think the first person I put up was Bob Youngs, because
Okay,
he was
yeah.
doing the seminars with me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he can answer the questions at least. And then as we kept developing this vision, it was, I didn't want to, interesting enough, I didn't want to, what do you call that when you lock, I didn't want to lock myself
Like
in.
pigeonhole yeah.
myself into just conjugate, because the people and the coaches I was networking with, that Louie and I would go to visit, or would come to Westside, and then later I'd go visit, they weren't not using conjugate.
No, they were using probably machines. It was probably all hit stuff back then.
It was a lot of hit stuff, but there was a lot of block type periodization models. There was, it was Buddy Morris. These people that I ended up putting on the site.
Right.
It's like, I wanted to be able to put a broad overview of what everybody was doing. If it was, so I had the different coaches, I had, physical therapists, I had all these other people. Right. And the fear was, this is going to confuse the shit out of everybody.
Because there's got too many points of
be all these different opinions.
Right.
But it didn't, it kind of worked out. Right. But it still got pigeonholed.
Right.
Because of all that.
Right.
And I get it, because when you're still there, all my answers are going to be that way.
Right.
Jim's answer was going to be that way, but then it all changed. But the interesting thing about that time looking back is, the one example I speak of often is when I started to go out and do the seminars, and it was no longer, because the coaching things that I did with Louie was a different thing. Right. Right. Because you're just speaking with the coaches. The idea is Louie would leave, and then I would say,
did you feel like you were kind of his liaison, kind of I won't say translator, but kind of, this is what,
because he was pretty insistent on, this is what you should be doing. You're stupid. You don't know what you're doing. Right. And that was just Louie. It's not a knock on him. He's very passionate.
He's just passionate
about who he was. Right. So now when he would leave, I would speak to the coaches to say, what exactly are you doing? Like, where do you think there's gaps? Right. Right. And then they did most of the talking. So but I'm learning through all that. Like, where's this gap? Where can what we're doing kind of help fill this gap? Right. Because if you fill this gap, because if we had this whole table, because later on, after I did this a couple 100 times, I'd start writing shit on tables and big fucking poster boards and stuff. And we would just be speaking about what like, what have you seen work for you? Right. And it would end up taking like 80% of the table or the poster board. Right. I'm like, cool, we know this works. What's this? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know either. Let's figure out what this 20% is, and let's focus on that and kind of go from there. I wanted those type of Q&As, to kind of go out there. Right. Because of that. It also led to Louie being pissed at me several times about certain things, because of all that. But it didn't make sense to me that they would do what we do. Right. Right. And then when I would,
the same,
and a lot of times later when Louie would speak to the coaches that had more of a clue. Right. Right. And I don't want to say conjugate based, but just training. There's a lot of coaches that just really didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Right. He would kind of do what I was doing at a much higher level. Right. Help troubleshoot these one areas. Some of the ideas would just be completely off the wall, bonkers type shit. Yeah. But then some of the other ones I'd sit back and be like, whoa, wow. Yeah. Like, wow. Like, what? Like, where'd that
this come some next from? Level, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But then I would be telling the coaches too, when he wasn't around, hey, look, we want to try this, so say something to him about, because he would
try to guide him.
And, he wouldn't listen to us for sure, ever. But he would listen to you. Like, if you pitched him an idea, then he would, we could have went in there and said, hey, we see these bands,
Right.
let's try to use
true.
it. He'd say, fuck off, those are stupid.
Yeah.
But if you told him,
Then
and this is how it kind of came to be, it wasn't you, but
Right.
I forget who
Right.
it was,
Yeah.
said, hey, you ought to check these out.
Yeah.
Then he tries them out. So he had more respect for the it's weird, man.
It's kind of like you can't be a prophet in your own hometown, right? Like,
No, it's just weird though, because he would have the respect for the coaches to implement their ideas, but say they're fucking an idiot because they didn't
because they
understand
use his ideas.
Yeah, that's Louis right there. That's defining him, to a T. And but anyhow, to get back to what I was saying, when I started going out to do these seminars, and I would use the cues, and I would talk about certain things, the arching's a big one,
Right.
with the squat.
Yeah.
And I would see a 6'4", 180-pound person. They looked like a fucking banana. I'm
Right.
like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm doing what you wrote.
You said arch
I'm
out.
like, that's not
That's not
what I meant.
what we
right?
meant. Yeah.
But it's what we were doing, right? Because we had 2 leaders for erectors.
Right.
So we
Right.
weren't necessarily arching. We were packing our
It was
lats and stacking
Creating
everything.
tightness. Yeah.
And that's the cue that works for, this is why it was such a weird time,
Right.
because I would put those things out there, and other people from other camps they were training with would put their cues out there.
Right. Right.
And then somebody would call it out, rightfully so,
Right.
because it was kind of fucked up, because
Right.
they were based on one demographic that we knew very well
Right.
and didn't understand yet. This doesn't work with a different demographic.
Right.
And I think this kind of suits into that whole powerlifting type of thing.
Yeah.
When certain powerlifters will
Right.
try to implement this into a sport training thing,
Mhm.
because it might have worked with a couple of football players that were in their crew back 30 years ago,
Right.
but they didn't also see what else those guys were doing when they weren't in the gym.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Right. And so that was for some a very hard pill to swallow,
Yeah.
right? Because now you're being criticized for something, but not pausing to think, why are they criticizing this?
Yeah.
And if it wasn't just the forums, all they did was criticize.
That's
But if it was an article tearing something, like I think Dan Green wrote one about all the issues with Westside,
right.
right? But then provided explanations as to why. And you're like,
Context, and that's
I get it.
yeah.
Like, I get it.
Yeah.
This is actually correct. Right. And that's what it was such an interesting, we're beyond that now, which is cool, man, because now there's an over too much education.
It's information overload.
But it's the bulk of it is good, right? That's out there. If you look for the similarities and everything, and just take out the marketing, anything that's posted is what I would call marketing.
Right.
Take that out.
Right.
Right. Once you pull that out and you look at the base of almost everything out there, it's better than people think it is.
Well, it goes back to, if there was only one way to do it, we'd all be doing it, right?
Oh yeah.
Like if there's just one way, there's many ways to improve on whatever it is you want to improve on. But that's why, going back to what we were talking about earlier, that's why the training is so valuable yourself, because then you figure out, you have the discernment and in the arena to try it. Hey, this is interesting. Well, I'm going to try it. And then you can speak on, well, I tried this, and either it verified that it worked or it discredited that it didn't work. And so you had that experience, right?
Certain things, when you said if one thing worked, everybody would use it, right?
Yeah.
When we break that down into its parts in the strength and conditioning realm, there are some things. Here's how I would explain that. Everybody knows testosterone works.
Yeah.
That uses testosterone. Everybody will use testosterone as the base.
Right.
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 It's all the other shit that they mess around with, where it gets just
exotic,
crazy, weird, marketing, all this other stuff. But everybody agrees that base is that base.
Right.
Where in strength and conditioning, that's like progressive overload. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
and something has to progress. I'm not saying it has to be load. Right. There has to be some type of progression, right?
Element to it.
And that's where I'm saying with that base, everybody agrees on the base, but I don't think enough people look deep enough to see what that base actually is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can take all the coaches that you know and find with all of those, there is something that's progressive.
Sure. No, that's fair.
Yeah. And then everything else kind of fills that space through experience and education.
I would say, preference at that point, right? Like going back to, I like to eat steak, like we can agree, like the base is a steak, but the seasonings, this is all the different variations and styles of training. But like you're saying, the meat is still the meat.
Yes.
And it's still that you've got to have a program that evolves.
Yes. Yes.
It
Because
can't
the
stay
portion
stagnant.
size of the meat will change. Some people are carnivore.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
And then there's going to be different sides.
Yeah.
You know, it's called nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's going to have to be more things that kind of build upon that.
Right.
So getting back to the powerlifting, how was that introduced? And was that after college?
Yeah. So that was, like I said, I got a taste of it in high school because it was just that, it really just.
Yeah, but it doesn't really sound like you were like the meathead, like buying in.
No. In high school, I enjoyed training. Like I really enjoyed training.
What about college?
I would say in college, I became the guy that liked the off season more than playing. A lot of it's because I wasn't very good. I mean, I wasn't. The little success that I had, I was above average strength, you know.
Did you work the skills of the sport as you should?
No.
Okay.
No.
We'll get to that later.
I was the guy that, you know, Monty, you probably should go run a little bit. Or, hey, you know, you've got tight hips. You probably should do this. No, I'm going to go lift some more weights. You know.
What position you play?
Nose guard, defensive line. You know, I was a fire plug. But again, I wasn't.
Or you should go out and actually learn how to read heads a little bit better.
Yeah, but again, you know, you got to remember during that time, the sports specific training really wasn't prevalent yet. I can remember going
even for like the line coaches.
Oh yeah,
are you kidding me?
Where I was in rural Texas, you know, I mean, we weren't near a big city. I can remember learning, like for example, learning how to swat and swim. I went to a football camp in East Texas to learn about that. Like I grew up in small town. Like there was not the level.
So you really didn't even know what to work on to get better.
Not really.
At camp.
No. I mean, there just wasn't, like I said, in our town, there wasn't that exposure. Like I said, there wasn't this sports specific training. There wasn't like personal trainers on every corner. Hey, come learn how to be a better O-line, D-line. Come learn how to be better. It just wasn't where we were. Now maybe in the Metroplex, you know, that might have been there.
Now
you know what I mean? Like it just wasn't there.
Now that I think back, because I remember in high school I had drills out the ass, but I also just remembered as you were speaking that for my junior year, somebody that formerly worked with Redskins line came in, and I remember him pulling me aside and working in the off season to show me, you know, what skills to work with the swimming, and how to read the head, and work with all that kind of stuff, and then doubling down on all that. But if it wasn't for him, it would have just been the sled, you know, the blocking sled and 40s.
That was it. I mean, there was, like I said, it was lifting. And then about 3 weeks out, you'd start running because here comes, you know, here comes the camp, here comes fall camp. You better get in some kind of shape. But like I said, I
was powerlifting at the time, so I was like, fuck that. I'll just deal with getting in shape when everybody else does.
Yeah, you know,
coming up.
And being in a smaller town and being a relatively above average athlete in that town, there wasn't the pressure of, well, this guy's going to beat me out. There wasn't the pressure of, I need to be pushed. Does that make sense? You know, it was, I'm probably going to play regardless. So there wasn't the urgency that we want to see, that I want to see in our kids today. Does that make sense? And so again, going back to, you know, just, I was not the ideal athlete. I wasn't some prodigy. I wasn't, you know, I was a kid that liked to train. And because of that, I got to go play smaller college football. Like I said, but in college, I wasn't any good. You know, I played a little bit my junior and senior year. And a lot of that goes back to, I think, a lack of foundation, athletic foundation, sprinting, jumping, skill that I just never got in high school. And that was never emphasized as a big point.
Did you just play football?
Played football. I tried to throw my freshman year, but that was.
So there was no real jumping or anything.
There was no. It was very boring. It was go out in the field. Here's a shot. Here's a disc, and go. You guys go throw. what do? We went out, sit on the gate and drank Dr. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this sucks. I want to go back and lift. So, I mean, there wasn't, being from a small town, there just wasn't that, that diversity of training. You know, it just wasn't. And so, you know, going back to what got me into powerlifting, you know, like I said, did it in high school. After college, meeting Mike had a gym in our hometown. Mike was a former powerlifter in the Army. He's getting back into it. Okay, hey, I like to lift weights. We're going to compete. Let's go compete. And I think the biggest thing that draws me to training, the biggest thing that draws me.
What was the gym?
It's just Askew's gym. It's just his gym in our hometown. Like I said, and Mike was a former, you know, bodybuilder. He was a former, he'd done, like I said, some powerlifting in the military. I mean, Mike's a strong dude. I mean, he went on the total, you know, some really big numbers, but that's what brought me into it. But the thing that draws me and keeps me there is there's a definitive level of improvement or regression. Like I immediately know after a training session, did I get better or get worse? After practice, you don't know. You know, there were times in college, why is this guy playing over me? I'm bigger, stronger, but this guy's playing over me. Why is that? And there's no really black or white answer. But in training, if you outlift me on a max effort movement, well, then you're stronger than me. Or if I outlift you, I'm stronger for the day. If I lift 5 more pounds. So that was the draw. And I think a lot of that is, you know, comes from like a lot of us, you know, we have some self-confidence issues. We have some self-worth issues. And that was the one place where you could kind of define what that is. And you have complete control over it too.
So how do you scale from that gym to making it to the senior nationals?
Dude, we just trained.
Same place.
Same place. You know, now, and like I said, Mike was was 1,000-pound squatter. But the way that we did that was we just started training. And again, going back to T-Nation, going back to the website, I mean, I was self-taught. Like I was self-taught. Like there was no,
how many of you were training in the same crew?
Man, I said there was probably a good core 6 to 8 of us.
I can see if you come in, if you find one thing and you come in, it's not like you can just pitch that thing and make it change.
No, and that crew also that caused a lot of friction.
Of course,
you know, because he wanted to train a certain way, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah,
I wanted to train, you know, conjugate. You know, I wanted to have the max effort and the speed days, and he coming from a bodybuilding, he was more volume based, more bodybuilding style, because that was his background.
Did he chip it down like the triples and singles before meet, or was it?
Yeah. I mean, he understood, you know, again, No. I mean, but he was very much volume driven.
Okay.
He was very much, like I said, very much bodybuilding driven, but the cool thing about Mike was, you know, he never charged us to train. I mean, it was always like, you're going to compete, so you can train in the gym. And, you know, we would all go to meets together, you know, and that was, dude, that was the golden age, man. That was really, really fun. You know, I wasn't married, didn't have kids, you know, so you could literally go in the gym at 4:30 and stay there till 9 o'clock, you know, and that's what we did. And like I said, we would all hop in the Suburban and go to meets, and that was really the jumping off point. And the other piece to that, I think, you know, taken from college, was you want to belong to a team, right? You know, that's the biggest thing I miss from college football. It's not playing. It's being around the guys. It's being in the locker room. It's having that camaraderie. And so now when you're on a quote unquote powerlifting team, well, now you kind of get a little taste of that, you know, but we all just started training, and our first meet was a NASA meet out in East Texas. And then we do the next NASA meet, and then we did NASA for probably 2 years. And, you know, not that we were anything special, but we'd kind of won everything that, you know, and it was time to level up. And then, so that's when we got into APF. And then that's when, you know, you meet guys, you know, we met a crew down in Dallas, Bad Attitude Gym.
Sean Dunn.
Sean. Yeah. We could tell some Sean stories.
The other day I went to McDonald's, and after I paid, I had sticker shock. And then I kind of realized that meal prep services are actually more affordable than getting fast food, and it's way better for you. Today, I'd like to speak to you about Visionary Meals. Visionary Meals is a Central Ohio meal prep company that sources their ingredients through local farmers. 90% of the ingredients are all locally sourced, 100% gluten-free, with a customized meal selection that is beyond anything I've ever seen before. And I've used a lot of meal prep companies in the past. I'm sure you have as well. They have a completely customized section where you can build your own meals. You can scale up the protein with each meals. They rotate the meals every single week. And they have an RD on staff that helps with the receipts and does one-to-one nutritional counseling. One of my favorites through them is the barbecue beef bowl, which is just amazing. They have tons of locations throughout the region, or they'll bring the food to you. Go to visionarymeals.com and check out the variety of the food they have there. Hopefully before the end of the year, they're going to be able to ship nationwide. Use the code TABLETALK10 for 10% off your first order. When he started, before Bad Attitude Gym, he helped organize a seminar in Dallas. I think it was him at Stroud's gym. And I remember him talking to me about how he was a former marathon runner. And I'm like, you stand no chance in hell, being able to do anything. But he ended up building this crew, the 3 dogs and the shirt or whatever it was. And God, he had a wild bunch of fucking, they get strong too. Oh, so dude, how often were you going down?
So I started, and this is kind of when that rift a little bit with Mike and them was because I started driving to Dallas a couple times a month to go train with them. And then of course that's, Coker was down there,
there was a few, right? So, I'm trying to think of some of the others. Cause he had a lot of,
there was Sean, there's Ray Pierce, Phil Wiley. I said Coker was down there. Greg Tillinghast was down there for a little bit.
There was a heavier dude, right?
There weren't really big super heavyweights. Henry trained there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Thomason.
Yeah. Well, he's that guy's got more meets on open powerlifting than anybody I've ever seen.
Henry he competes every month.
It was like 200 meets or some shit.
Yeah, Henry's crazy.
Oh yeah, he's
a character.
Yeah.
But he was kind of around there that time. But I got hooked up with those guys again from meeting at meets, and then, hey, you want to come down? And actually to the point to where, I wanted to be a part of their crew, because they were, again, kind of the standard in Texas, Texas AP at powerlifting. And so it was a deal where I was training at Mike's, most of the time, but then I was going down and training with them on the weekends, every other weekend or whatever. And then I would wear their shirt at the meet. And so that it kind of caused a rift a little bit, but it was one of those, another thing I feel like that I've been good at is seeking out, when it's time to level up, seeking out new information, seeking out people to learn from. And so that was an opportunity to do that. And that I know caused some tension and cause it was, okay, well, you're with us, but then you go with them. And so you're kind of living in both. But again, that opened up a whole new different world, when you get into, the APF side of powerlifting back then. And I think that was a big part of allowing me to continue to evolve and then being able to compete at seniors, in 2006 or whatever. But
so when you get there, because it was, I think he used a modified conjugate type of program, and which I could be wrong, so correct me. You were there.
Yeah.
Which relied a lot on, making decisions at that time.
Right.
Right. So if it was a max effort day, you kind of had an idea, but
I still really don't plan out max effort stuff.
Okay. So did that happen? Were you doing that before getting there though? Is the question that I'm asking.
I got you.
Because it's different when you go from a training plan into
now you're
a template.
Right. I would say, again, I'm trying to think back that far. what drove me a lot was those books that y'all put out, the training templates.
Yeah.
And so I would go through and I would run those different dynamic waves. I would use those different max effort sequences as more of gospel. Like I was very much 9x3, 10x2, 12x2. Didn't really deadlift, but that was pretty much the path that I would stay in. And then of course, just if I saw something on, the internet or whatever, hey, let's try this. I don't remember there actually being that's kind of how it's been, if that makes sense.
Well, where I'm going with this is a lot of people will just run a program.
Right.
So we'll say gym's 5-3-1. Right?
Yeah.
And they're going to stick to everything on the program and they're comfortable with the program. That all works. And that will get them very far, especially if it's a good program. It will get them very far, but it's only going to get them so far.
So when did I start auto-regulating? I guess
but that happens the same time you stop doing programs and you start working off templates.
Right.
Because the template might have this 3-week wave, but then after that, they'll say like lats, shoulders, and that's all it says.
And that's all it says, and you got to figure out what to
do. What to do, right? And so that goes back to that auto-regulation type of thing.
Sure. I would say I would probably dabbled in it. That's probably the genesis of it back then. I do remember a wave where we ran like a true circa max, like super high band tension wave.
Yeah, but that's just the squat.
Right.
Everything else.
Yeah, everything. Everything else was based off the template. It was 9x3. It was max effort, but I guess it was principles in like, it's how we've always done it.
No, that's
you know what I mean?
Like, because I see some of this play out in the way you speak about your training program now for your kids.
Yeah.
Not in that it's the program, right?
Right.
But in that it seems to be template based with a high variability in regards to you see something, you're going to change it right now.
Absolutely.
Right. Now when it's program based and somebody sees something, they just keep rolling with it to see if it works or doesn't work. Yeah. And those are two vastly different coaching philosophies. So you can have it all planned out. That's great.
Right.
But you're never going to do that plan the way it is.
No. And that's, And I would say I'm principle. I think you're using template in the same concept.
Yeah.
I'm principle driven. I'm not hard set to week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. No, I'm very much, we're going to look at what we did the week before and then adjust for the next week. Like I don't have month templates. I don't have that's why I think I said some other time, like I wouldn't be a good online coach because I'm not going to write you out a 9-week, here it is. Now at the end of 9 weeks, you're going to have what we did, but that might change on, for somebody else. I'm not going to give you the same program I give somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And I think it goes back to all the variables that are out there. It goes back to, well, we have this planned on Monday, but what did you do Sunday that might limit you, or what happened Monday? Like, okay, perfect example. Like I had a plan for what I wanted to do yesterday, coming into, well, the plan changed because one guy didn't show up. And the plan probably should have changed even more after a 16-hour drive and flat tires and everything else. I should have listened to my own advice and adjusted again, but I didn't. And because of that, the training wasn't what it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And so see that's the counter example of I stayed in my template of what I wanted to do when I should have said, no, do something else. But
that's already after making two
other pivots
before that. Right.
And that's because in our world, especially in the high school setting, like there's not, like, I don't know who's showing up that day. There might be different coaches that are out that week. There might be a testing situation going on. And so there's just too many variables to look that far into the future. Does that make sense?
Yes. Where I'm going here is I'm trying to figure out was that philosophy influenced through your own training at that higher level? because
got
that's
you.
really the only way
I
you
see.
can go through that, right?
I mean, I would say yes. I mean, because that's the way that. I mean, that's really that's how I've done.
I know, but it would
I'm
go
trying to
back to
figure
that. It would go back to that argument that if you haven't done it, then
Yes.
you can still coach it, but you're not going to be able to coach it the same way.
Yes.
Right. To where if you look at all the pivots that you've had to make through your competitive career before
Yes.
we even get into coaching,
Right.
it's in the thousands.
Yeah.
Right. Because
Absolutely.
should I do this next set or not?
Absolutely.
Right. You guys are busting your balls. You do it and you're not supposed to.
Right.
You tell them to fuck off. This
Yeah.
is too high of a risk.
Right.
Or this went super well. I'm going to do it. There's so many factors and so many
Yeah.
decisions that are made just in a squat day
Sure.
that it could be 4 movements. It could be just the squat. You're like,
Yeah.
you know what? Fuck it. I'm done.
Right.
Right. Because of,
right.
and then all the factors leading up to the heaviest set.
Right.
You know, is this going to be the heaviest set? You're coaching yourself and going back and forth in your own head
Sure.
a million times
Sure.
before you even get in front of the high school athlete, this is where it becomes interesting, because when you're dealing with what age do you start with? Is it 12?
Yeah, 6th grade. So
6th grade,
probably
right?
12, 13.
So
you know.
you're dealing with an age range that can basically progress from anything,
From anything.
right? So as long as the program's not completely
Right.
fucking retarded,
Right.
but I would even argue they'd probably improve on that too, right? But
I mean, the easiest thing to do is to get our kids to progress. You know what I mean? They can walk in, touch a weight, walk out. 6 weeks later, they're going to be stronger. It's just biology.
yes.
You know?
So the easier coaching approach would be to have the program and just have them sit down and do this,
Just check it off and follow.
right? And
Yeah,
to check
sure.
it off and follow, which a lot do
Sure.
and have success. But mentally, that may drive you nuts because you didn't train that way.
Yeah.
And then you it's weird, right? Because you lose control of variables when you do that, but it doesn't seem that way. Like if you have this whole written out program,
Yeah.
A to Z,
Sure.
you would think that you have more control.
Yeah. No, you don't. No,
You have
no.
way
You
less.
have less control. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You have way less control. And you know, that's something that I've done. I mean, I guess looking to where I had my biggest total, I would say that was not a program. It was a principle or template based approach, because I don't remember doing dynamic effort. I'm talking squats, you know, I still did the dynamic effort bench probably a lot longer, but
So you peel back and put in more rep work.
yeah, I did. And actually more specialized work with the squat.
Mm-hmm.
It became more partial movement. Like we had our max ever day where you're doing more full range stuff into the gear. And then we had a high box day, like a board day, where now you're working volume just to get used to to that top end. But yeah, man, to think about when that actually geneticized, or like when it, maybe when I left to go to Virginia, because I didn't have a crew, then it was just me. And so you kind of got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, you get a little more freedom too.
Yeah. Yeah. But I've always been willing to try new stuff, you know, when it comes to training. You know, I've never been stuck into, you know, I want to do this, you know,
No, but the dynamics are different when there's a crew.
there is.
You know, you could go in saying, I want to do something different. But
Yeah.
then you end up jumping in just because it's more fun to be able to jump in.
Yeah, there is. And we had some of that, I would say pre-COVID. We had consistently probably 5 or 6 guys that would come out to the house and train. And there was a little bit of that dynamic. What do you want to do today? Well, it's my house. We're going to do this, you know, and then there was some back and forth, you know, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
So when did the coaching come in? Like, what were you doing before all this, before you were coaching?
So 2003, I was a intramural recreational sports director at the local college. Did that for 2.5 years. Got my first coaching job, 2006 middle school, back in my hometown. And that,
Was there any teaching that went with it?
Yeah. So in Texas, you have to teach.
Okay.
They're together. So got my first teaching coaching job back in my hometown. My 6th grade social studies teacher hired me. She was the principal. And all through high school and college, I knew I wanted to be a coach.
So what are you teaching at this time?
Then I was teaching PE.
Okay.
I was teaching PE then. Did that for a year, got married, then went to VMI, Virginia Military. So I go from a year of middle school to now I'm an instructor at one of the top military liberal arts colleges in the country. That was when we started the powerlifting team. So we revitalized and brought back the powerlifting team. So now that's really my first organized. I mean, we coached in middle school, but that's,
So how did you handle that? Right. Because you can't really just roll a template because how many kids?
20, 30.
Right. It's not like you can roll in there with just this max effort dynamic, whatever day.
Yeah.
With 30 kids.
I mean, that's what we tried to do.
How did it work out?
I mean, I felt like we did a really good job, So, I mean, we had, I think my first year we had 5 go to collegiate nationals. And then that number grew the next 2 years, 10. And I want to say we brought 12 or 15 my last year. That was at 3 years. That was where I met John Rivas. So who's been on here before.
Mm-hmm.
So John was a freshman then, but,
powerlifting at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So funny story about John. I told him I was going to talk about him. Met John, 181 pounds. And he was doing this high school bodybuilding stuff. Told me he didn't want to power lift. Nah, I'm just going to bodybuild. Okay, cool, man. When it comes back around, okay, hey, I think I want to join the powerlifting thing. And then of course the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been phenomenal. But I would say that was when I started coaching. But I wrote out the training for the week. But it was very much.
Now, at this time period, were you laying the foundation for how you still work with the kids now?
I mean, I would say, yeah, because that's pre what I'm doing now,
yeah.
But it was more, I wasn't really coaching then per se. It was more I would say more of a sponsor almost, because there wasn't, like, it was all voluntary. And it's voluntary now in high school, but it was all voluntary in the sense that it was, I guess, a social aspect to it too, like a club. Like, hey, come, let's train together, and then let's go compete as a social activity. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and yes, there were goals. Like I said, we wanted to go to collegians. We wanted to, we wanted to do all that. It didn't have the intensity that I have now, I guess I would say then. It was more just like a guide, just like a sponsor almost, I guess. Does that make sense?
Was it running in 3-week blocks, or did you fall into running more?
I want to say even back then it was weekly. Like I would write out a weekly plan and give it to them. But again, the base of it's all going to be what you guys talk about. Like it probably was 3-week ways.
Okay.
It probably was. I think I was rotating max efforts weekly back then. There wasn't a lot of repetitiveness there, but with the dynamic stuff, it was 100%, wave driven.
All right. So when you speak of conjugate, how do you define that in a general sense? And it's here's why I ask. Here's why I ask, right? Because if you look at what it really is, right? Its origins are basically breaking down one lift into segments. So like a bench press, a fuller press, and a board press would be a conjugate version of the bench press, right? So if you go back far enough and read what Louis first started writing about it, he used the conjugate method on max effort days, which means that you're taking a full range movement and breaking it into segments, right? There are people that will speak of conjugate method, and that's how they refer to it, because that's how it would be referred to in the text. Where other people will speak of conjugate, and what they're really talking about is concurrent. Right. Which was, they're interchanged now. It's been, I don't want to say misused, but it's been used so long in a certain way over such a long period of time that even if you look at the conjugate as being just the max effort and the dynamic being put together some type of 3-week blocked out sequence
Sure.
of whatever it is, there's a million different definitions on what that even means.
Sure.
Right. So when I speak to somebody about conjugate, I gotta kind of know, it doesn't change. To me, there's no right nor wrong.
Right.
It doesn't change, but it does change
It changes
how I'm going to ask questions
Sure.
and how people will perceive
Sure.
them.
So for me, the framework that I operate with is just the raising of multiple qualities
Over a period
over
of
a
time.
period of time.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Perfect.
going to be the framework because that's what we do with our athletes. Now, if you're talking powerlifting, and I guess powerlifting conjugate versus athletic conjugate, now you're going to break down the lift with a powerlifter because that's the goal, right?
Mhm.
And so that's how I would talk about it in the powerlifting sense. But from an athletic standpoint, we're trying to bring up strength, speed, hypertrophy, all of those things.
So when you're looking
concurrently at the same time.
if you're looking at the max or absolute strength,
Yes.
right, then are you looking at that from a strain perspective or a percentage perspective? In other words, max effort work can be 90% plus.
Right.
Or it can just be, look, I just want the kids to strain.
Sure.
So if they do a set of 10 and the 8th and 9th one, they can barely do.
Yes.
That fits the definition for you.
I would say it's exercise dependent.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is I would say with our, for lack of a better term, power lift movements for our bench squat, primarily that's going to be strain or volume driven. For our Olympic movements, and really we're talking the clean, it's going to be an effort based where we're looking for a maximal attempt.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found is with our kids, number one, they're novices in a weight room, so they need the volume. They need the practice of doing the movements. That's what's going to drive their improvement in those foundational squats, benches, presses.
So for your kids, what would be your KPIs or your main indicators?
Yeah, so those have changed because they're not really barbell driven.
Well, I hope they've changed if you're looking at athletes, right? So
no, but okay, but
will change on the kid too, based upon their skill qualities.
Based on what they need, it could.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Based on what they need. Yes, and that's why that individualization piece is so important. That's why that template piece is so important because we may have a plan for the day or for the block, but if I've got a kid that's needs he needs a pendulum to swing a different way, I'm going to modify that on the floor in the session organically.
All right. So if we're looking at the transfer of the weight room, we'll just use football, right? Yes.
Yeah. So back to your KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we have weight room KPIs. We have bench squat,
yes,
clean numbers, and I guess indicators. But I would say more than that. I'm looking at a vertical jump. I'm looking at a broad jump. I'm looking at what we call fly tens. So it's a 40.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at a reactive 3 broad jump. I'm looking at those numbers more than I am the weight room numbers.
Mm-hmm. They have the greater correspondence
because to
from
me,
what you've seen.
Absolutely. And again, this is also anecdotally, because again, if all you're worried about is the strength portion, that's not their sport. Their sport is not with a barbell. Their sport is whatever movement they're doing on the field court or diamond. And so you got to remember that the KPIs that most are similar to their movements there are the ones you should be focusing on.
Well, you've come up with those because you've been doing this for what, 15 years?
I
10?
mean, I would say 15, probably fair.
15 years.
Probably fair.
So over 15 years, you've seen that when X goes up, they become better on the field.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because I've been the guy who just focused on big squat numbers, big clean numbers. I mean, there was one year we had close to 10 300-pound cleaners, which at the high school level is, I think, pretty good. We're 2-8. 2 years later, we had maybe 1, and then we go 4 rounds deep in the playoffs.
Now, out of all those KPIs you have, which would be the top 2?
Sprints and jumps. No question. Sprints and jumps. If I know a kid's jumping higher and farther, I know a kid's running faster, I know that kid is doing the right things in the weight room.
I just want to take a moment to let you know about our crew. What our crew is, it allows the show to stay independent, and it's the reason why the podcast is still here now. The podcast is free to listen to, but it's not free to produce. It keeps going because of the sales through Elite FTS, our show sponsors, but more importantly, our crew members. The reason I love this is for many reasons, is it keeps the show independent. So I can pick who I want to speak to. I can pick what topics I want to speak to, and I don't have to be accountable to anybody. I just go off what the crew members want and what the audience wants, and I don't have to deal with all the other bullcrap that's associated with the podcast world. In return, what you get with the crew is ad-free episodes that are released a day ahead of time. You get access to our Discord community, which has AMAs, like 60 ebooks. We try to put a new ebook out every single month. Access to our coaching community with form checks, training Q&As. It also gives you invitations to our training retreats that are out here in the gym once or twice a year. 76% of all the people that joined in 2022 are still members now. Right now, you can either go month to month or get 2 months free with an annual plan. Just look for the link in the description, look at the QR code, or search elitefts.com crew and join today. It means a lot.
All right. So
No
with that in mind, if say a back squat's not driving that, you're going to pull the back squat and put something else in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I would say I've become less of a back squat guy with those athletes that are more speed and power driven. Like, so you're talking about, we're talking about our skill guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like our skill guys very rarely will do a traditional back squat. Now, what we've gone to is some 3/4 movements. What we've gone through is some single leg 3/4 movements, because again, I'm not very smart. People smarter than me have figured out a 3/4 squat has a lot more transference than a full range squat.
And you've seen it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If
Now,
you
see
were
that
to
transference, though, is the transference from that to your runs
Sure.
to the field,
Sure.
right? So
Right.
it's not that to the field, right? So it's, you get what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
You have
yes,
to have
yes,
that middle piece. Like you have to have, like, it's not going to transfer from barbell to field.
Yes.
It's not. You've got to have that linking plyometric, I guess, for lack of a better term. Sprinting's plyometric, you know. So yeah, you've got to have that glue that connects the field and the weight room.
So then how do you marry that with when they are in practice? Because in practice,
Sure.
where they would have a lot of that
Yeah.
as just their practice.
You would think, but that's not necessarily the case. Like there's not a lot of max velocity sprinting that happens in practice. There is a lot of lower intensity movements that take place in practice. And we've seen that with GPS and those technologies. The way you marry it is in season, for example, we're going to have a separate training time where we're going to touch on max speed, where we're going to do things train in the weight room so that I don't have to worry about it being satisfied in practice. Now, there's also a relationship piece, right, with the head coach, that if I need to touch on that in practice, I can go to him and say, hey, we really haven't done a good job. What do you think about, let's do some sprinting on the front end to satisfy that. And our head coach is phenomenal. He's the best head coach I've worked for. So for example, we've gone through kind of a quasi spring ball. Well, 2 days a week before they do their skill work, we're sprinting 15 minutes on the front end to check that box. When we train, we're pairing our Olympic stuff with our jumps. So we're getting that in when we train.
Mm-hmm.
So it just goes back to how you organize your overall training to satisfy those organically within the program. Does that make sense?
So if you're in the off season, then what does that week microcycle look like?
We're typically training total body 3 days a week. We're going to sprint twice a week. And then the jumping happens organically within that.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
now walk me through a total body session.
okay. So for example,
The reason I'm asking is some people are going to think every body part.
yeah, no.
That would be 10 movements.
Yeah. No. So we basically have three tiers. Okay. So on Monday, we're going to clean heavy. Depending on what I've done in the past, we're either going to squat fast or we're going to front squat. Oh, let me take that back. We used to clean heavy, squat fast, and then do upper accessory on Monday. So that would be a max effort clean, triple, double, or single with the variation. Dynamic effort squat after that. Typically 5x5 just because of our time component. You know, we don't have time to go through 10 sets.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're doing some kind of rep upper body work. It might be push-ups. It might be pull-ups.
Now, are those first two movements done independently, or are they performed in a circuit with something else?
No. We're going to clean and jump first, squat and some type of upper back accessory. Then we go to so it's.
All right. So how many kids do you have?
With football, I think our biggest group, about 76, 80.
So how do you keep them from fucking off in between sets? That's the main reason other coaches will do circuits though.
Yeah, no, I feel like we've done a great job teaching our kids how to train. We've got anywhere from 6 to 8 coaches in there. Also with me, we have a program that has a timing system. We've got 15 TVs in there.
So how many kids are paired on a platform for the cleans?
Ideally 3.
Okay.
So you're doing, so 3 is kind of the magic number.
Okay.
Just from a time standpoint, so if
you had 5, there's going to be fucking off.
Yes.
Yes.
Or you just have to organize it in a manner where you've got, you know, some mobility movements in there. So everyone's doing something, but then you lose so much time. Like I try to keep it 3 groups of 3. That's the magic number.
Okay. Then
so you've got
through.
So you've got a main movement, an accessory, and then you're coaching or spotting.
Yes.
So that's the breakdown to keep them on task.
So after the second movement, when they're going more into the accessories, are they kind of on their own?
No, it's still based on that timer. It's still based on that timer. So, now it also might be a deal where we might pair the dynamic squat with a push-up to steal some time in with that, based on.
So it's basically pulling it from the bottom end and sticking it up.
And then sticking it in as an accessory. I think Jim does a bunch of that too, you know.
Yeah.
Now that's what we did. That's what we did in the past on Monday. What I've gone to on Monday now is we're going to clean heavy, front squat heavy. And that's been really, really good, just because I feel like if you're going to clean, you got to do a front squat. You got to have the front squat in. And then we've just that's been our Monday.
That also drops their load though, right?
From a dynamic standpoint, like
because you're controlling the percentage because this is the lighter day.
No. This ends up being our heavier day with the front squat.
Well, they're going to back squat more than they can front squat.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes.
So it lowers the load, which is going to lower the workload.
Yes, which is okay, because that's why I like the front squat, because again, we're using the training generally.
Yes.
So we're trying to get the most bang for our buck doing the least amount of work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason for the front squat. The big 3 of the front squat is going to be the transference to the clean. It's going to be the greater range of motions we can get into. So we're getting the hip, we're getting the knee, we're getting the ankle. We're staying off the lower back because of the positioning of the bar, and it's a lighter load.
Yeah,
so that we can
overall workload.
So we can focus on.
They also have to brace smarter.
Right.
Even if they don't know how to brace, they're going to learn how to brace.
Right. And if you do get out of position, they can dump the bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there's kind of a built-in safety factor to, again, take pressure off the lower back, because, I mean, you go through a heavy back squat max effort, you don't want to go sprint, jump, or run.
Mm-hmm.
But what is their job to do to sprint, jump, cut, and run? So the box to be checked is lower body strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're checking that box, I can do that a million different ways.
Well, you're strengthening.
We're using the front squat in that manner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're still accomplishing the goal, but you're able to do it with a lower load, right?
Absolutely, which we get more bang for our buck, because again, the weight room isn't the end goal. The weight room's not the end goal.
Yeah.
The weight room now is very much in the background.
Well, where I was going is the intensity percentage of one rep max.
Yes.
It's still there.
Yes, it's still there. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the intensity is there.
But the load
is lower.
So you accomplish the goal
of
what that is to be in that intensity zone.
Absolutely.
Just with a lighter
load. Yeah, so it's like minimal effective dose, I guess, would be right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, you could go as far as to just make it a real super heavy fucking sandbag, which is going to be even lower load.
Right.
Right. Or,
yeah, you could. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there are more regressions that you can still stay in that intensity zone.
100%.
But you might lose the carryover that you're looking
That's
for
what
the
I
clean.
was going to say. Exactly. Like, yes, like if we weren't cleaning the front squat, you're right. It becomes just another variation. We could throw in a goblet squat. We could throw in a sandbag carry. You could do isometrics. There's a million different things you could do.
Okay. So if we look at that, if we look at that, then we go back to when you were powerlifting and your selection of the max effort movements.
Yes.
Right. Where we'll say the goal there was just to strain with something over 90%.
Yeah.
Were you conscious of the fact that there's sometimes you're going to pick a movement that you're not as strong at to be able to have better recovery leading into the next dynamic effort day or the next max effort day? And that's why you would select a 1 board instead of a 3 board. Because the load's going to be lighter,
right?
And it's going to. Were you conscious of that? Oh, really?
No. And I would even say that I was.
You were accidentally probably doing that though.
Maybe
because if you're all making decisions, and you're in there and you're trying to decide what to do, and you're like, man, look, I am fucked up from Friday.
Yeah.
And then you're going to choose.
The
thing that's easier for you to recover from, which is usually less load,
or what you're good at.
Yeah, true. Which is going to be easier to recover.
Which is easier, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I would say is 9 times out of 10, because I was my own coach, I'm going to pick things that I was good at and that I wanted to do versus the things that I should have done.
Yeah.
That
you weren't consciously aware
of that. There wasn't that periodized,
it wasn't periodized because it's, when I think back to what we were doing.
Yeah.
Right. This inherently was kind of built in without us knowing it was built in.
Right.
Right. Because, somebody walk in like, what are you doing today? I don't know. What are you doing today? And it's like, we're all trying to figure out what we want to do. And it's all kind of based upon, look, man, we squatted on Friday. This is Monday.
Right.
I need to be ready to squat on that next Friday. I feel really fucking good.
Right.
So let's pull, let's do what's going to be the hardest to recover from, or it could be the inverse. We didn't consciously really know, but that was in the thought process is, how do I feel from Friday? Am I going to be able, is this going to fuck up Wednesday, which is highly doubtful, but it could. But is it going to really fuck up? Like, what's happening Friday? Is it week 1? Is it week 3? If it was week 1 of the wave, it's like, no, I want to be ready. Because that was always the worst fucking week because it's coming off. That there's no deloads, right? So it's coming off. That is the deload.
Right. No, I'm way more cognizant of that now with our kids than I ever was with my training.
Okay.
At least aware, I guess, intentionally.
Yes.
Is that I'm way more.
Well, if you really want to mind fuck yourself, think back on the choices that you guys were making back then and really, really think about it.
Yeah.
You're going to see a pattern.
Probably. Yeah. Right? Yeah. There's going to be a pattern.
Now there's going to be disruptions.
Right.
Like the disruptions and the patterns are the shit talking and other thing. That's just part of it. Right. But watch what happens if you had it all written down, which I don't, but if you had it all written down.
Yeah. And I don't either. I've gotten
But if we did, we could look back and after even that shit talking fuck up that we probably shouldn't have done.
Right.
Look at what the next week was.
Yeah.
Guarantee it's not the same.
It's not the same. Yeah.
It's going to be something minimized that's lighter load.
And that's, as I've gotten older, I'm still, I haven't given up, I've got one more whatever.
Everybody does.
Right. Because I'm not ready to get, to throw it away,
I get it. So, you got band shirts too.
Yeah. I got them. I got them, baby. But, I'm trying to be more cognizant of that. Like, hey, if I know I'm going to shirt up in 2 weeks, then the week before needs to be backed off. And then I need to be smarter about what I'm doing that way as I've gotten older, because again, recovery and everything else, but I would say when we were in the thick of it, I don't know that was really, really,
I think if you think back through it and really, really think about it, you're going to see that pattern.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's impossible to not have it.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have it, you all would have been way more fucked up.
Yeah.
Way more injuries, way more bad meets.
Yeah.
Because of that. You got to.
Well, and I'm not saying that it happened. I'm just saying that I wasn't aware.
It wasn't aware.
I wasn't intentional. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I wasn't intentional in setting it up that way. But no, I can totally remember days where, man, my lower back shot, like we're not doing safety bar, or, I did never deadlift. I hate deadlifting, but so that was never, but with the squat, it was like, all right, yeah, I'm sure there were days where that was happening, and I think that was a big part when I was training for the heaviest squat of doing that high box, was that I could still get some good volume and good weight, but it being less intense because of partial range movement that would set up for the suit work.
We also had some, with the max effort stuff, there was some, because Louis remembered everybody's number. He was like,
he's like Rain Man,
fucking Rain Man. There were times that if you smoked something, it was like, you're done.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? It's like, you're ahead of where you need to be. You're done. Shut it down.
So that's a rule that I have with our kids. Don't PR a PR. It happened.
No, I mean, done for the whole day.
Oh, wow.
Like accessories, everything.
You're done. You're done.
And it's like, huh? Right.
But that's he changed optimally, right? Like, is that optimal?
It was weird.
It was weird because the norm was maximal.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was weird too, because I think I had 2 compliments my entire fucking life. Right. And that was probably like one of them.
That was probably the one day, like, wait a minute. Like,
but I think that kind of also came to be because we did have a couple people in there that, I don't want to mention them by name because they were strong as fuck and they worked hard, but they would just come in, basically do the max effort and the dynamic and just leave. And then just break all-time world records. And we're like, wait a minute. And I think he kind of picked up.
He kind of picked up.
There's a minimum and there's a maximum, right?
Yeah. And so, and I would say that's a big part of my philosophy now, is we want to be in that sweet spot, like I want their sport to tax them maximally and push that red line. I don't want the training to push the red line. Does that make sense?
Well, the training's kind of easy to find the minimal effective dose, but do you look for the maximal effective dose as well?
I would say if the majority of our numbers are improving, then that's the maximal dose.
All right. So you're not pushing harder to be able to see where you could take their work capacity for it, because you only need work capacity for the sport you're in.
Right.
But you can't, some coaches do.
Right.
You can build the work capacity to an insane level.
Right.
Look at wrestlers, look at CrossFitters.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily needed for the sport they play, but it can be done.
It can be done.
And some coaches strive towards that. You're not trying to figure out
not in the way. Now, in this summertime with football, for example, yes, we're going to push the envelope farther than I'm comfortable with, but that's because I got to prepare them for the practice that's going to push them farther. Does that make sense?
Well, they don't. You still do 2 days and shit like that?
No, we just have one big practice.
All right, okay, but it's bigger.
But it's 2.5, 3 hours.
What normal practice be?
Once we get in season, 2 hours.
All right, so it's not that much.
It's not that much.
So you don't have to pull off that much.
No,
because it's like when I was playing or when you were playing. For me, with the powerlifting, like I had to compete before this started because there was going to be no training for a month, because we had the stupid 2-a-days that were like 3 hours each. And just
we had the long-a-days. We had a 2.5-hour practice in high school. We had like an hour break and then went out for another 2.5 hours.
That's what I did.
And then of course in college you had 3 practices. Yeah, what are we doing? Like we're down here.
Well, I mean, if you're the strength coach, then you got you know what I'm saying?
Yes, then you got
what are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like that.
No. I mean, I'll still bring their training maxes down.
Sure.
During that time to account for the increased. But the idea, like for example, right now, summertime, when we go back, the weight training goes into the shadows a little bit. Their movement becomes the priority.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not I'm not chasing strength per se anymore as a primary KPI at this point. They got to be able to move. They got to have that higher.
So how long do you have to actually focus on that? Because the season's over in November?
Hopefully December, but typically, yes. You play your last regular season game, so first or second week in November. Yeah.
So they got a break because of the holidays, right? So then you have.
No, a lot of times you play on Friday, you're training on.
No, I'm saying after the.
Oh, as far as football
wise,
yeah.
So what, they have a 2-week break or something like that?
I mean, no, I mean, literally,
You're
like,
still going,
like, yeah, oh yeah, like
but
we're done.
but you're not hitting them hard. You're building up to the strength, or is it already set? What I would call it would be like a transference phase.
You would think it's like that, and we try to program it like that, but a lot of coaches, we're hitting the gas pedal.
I'm sorry, as far as your weight room training.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
So you have December. So, okay. So we'll say you have January, February, March, April.
Yeah.
Right. And then May.
Yeah.
And then then you got to start
then
the movement prep.
Yes.
So you have 5 months.
Yes. So you have 5 months to primarily focus on strength, quote unquote. Right. Like those are your big. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to get stronger in the summertime. It just means that if I have to pull back in the weight room because their legs are tired, I'm going to do that. But the goal also and the art is to turn that heat up so there's not that.
Now, when you're pulling back, are you pulling back on the front end or the back end? In other words, are you pulling back on the first 2 movements as far as the workload, or are you pulling back on the accessories?
Typically, I'll pull back on the accessories.
Okay.
That's the easiest.
That's
the easiest to pull back on. You know, like, for example, if we got a bunch of kids missing cleans, you know, like I give them a goal or whatever for that day and they're missing cleans. And let's say, you know, we're 2 sets in a front squat and it looks like garbage. Then, all right, guys, we're cutting the accessories. We're done. I feel like we do a good enough job programming that hasn't happened a whole lot.
Okay.
I can't remember a time in the past 2 years where we've had to pull back because they were gassed.
Okay. So if we stay on that Monday with the first 2 movements, how long are you staying on those 2 movements before you would change them out? The clean and the front squat.
So 3 weeks, but we're not changing them out. We're tweaking what we're doing. So for example, our progression is we'll do 3 weeks power clean where we're working triples. So the power clean will be catch it tall. You're working up to a 3 rep max and it's percentage guided. But if they go above that, then I'm okay with that. And if they go below that, then, you know, that's something I'm not okay, but we need to look at, did I overshoot? Do that for 3 weeks. The next 3 weeks, we're doing a pause where we're catching it low.
Okay. Now in those 3 weeks, would you call the first week like,
No, it's a true 3 rep max. The next week, beat it by 5 pounds, then beat it by 5 pounds.
Yeah. But in a way that first 3 weeks is becoming reacclimated with the movement, right? So they're not going to be able to express their true 3 rep max because it could have been 12 weeks since they did that exact variation.
Well, it'd be 9 weeks.
Yeah.
It'd be 9 weeks.
You get what I'm saying though?
Yeah. But see, on Fridays, we do a variation of the power clean on Fridays.
Okay.
So we're never too,
yeah.
But that's why I said like we're never too far away. We're never too far away from that main movement with how we do it. So
if this was instead of to be 3 weeks to be 4, would they not be able to PR on that 4th week? Is that why it ends up being 3?
No, 3 is just a cool number.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to find why.
Yeah. No.
Because with the kids, sometimes
I used to do deloads, but that kind of happens naturally and organically. So typically the way the school year's set up, you have a pretty good 9-week block before you have to have some kind of break or some kind of testing or some kind of holiday or whatever. So it's worked out really, really well that 9-week.
So you got 3-week blocks with movements that build upon each other?
In the clean, yes. In the front squat, it's 3-week waves, but we're manipulating the volume and intensity. And then with the bench, we're just throwing as much at it as we can. What I mean by that is with our, so clean.
Now your bench wasn't on that Monday.
No, bench should be on Wednesday.
Okay. All right.
And so what I've done on Wednesday is we used to do some kind of Olympic variation for speed on the front end. Like we do hang power snatch, we do an overhead press. I've scrapped all that. I've gone to a straight powerlifting style upper body day. It's upper body. You know what I mean? Like there's not going to be a lot of what am I trying to say? Like it's more for ego, it's more for confidence than actual output.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you got a big bench press is more ego to me than, now you could argue lineman and this and that, but the upper body is more aesthetic, it's more up here and confident driven.
Well, the other variable I think that plays into that a lot of coaches forget about is it may not have the correspondence, and probably doesn't,
Right.
that everybody would like it to have,
Right.
but they're going to do it anyhow. Right. And now since everybody has a home gym,
Yeah.
like if you're not supervising it and doing it,
it's going to happen.
They're going to be fucking around with their friends, and
absolutely,
you know, then their forms for shit.
Yeah.
Now you have issues.
And there's some people, again, you know, football is one of those sports that are tied to like a 300-pound bench. You know, like that was my whole goal. Like going back to what got me into lifting was a 200-pound club bench t-shirt. That's what got me into lifting. I wanted an orange with black lettering 200-pound club bench shirt. That's what it was. That's what it was. That's 100% what it was. That's what started this whole journey was a daggum t-shirt. And so
it's a shitty bench.
For a freshman,
I know,
but no, you're right. Yeah. You're right. So as a strength coach, we do have, again, we work for the head coach, right? So they have metrics that they want to see. Now, again, ours is phenomenal. I love our head coach. So because of that, I still want to inject some of that KPI into our training. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Well, I can look at as an outsider looking in and say that's going to take less coaching skills than trying to teach them a snatch.
Yeah, like it's dummy proof, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, we did a deal about how to bench earlier, but no, yes, it's very much.
Well, it's one of the arguments against the Olympic lifts, right? Is a lot.
Yeah, they're so technical,
yeah.
Which I think is a cop out. I think it's 100% cop out. If you don't want to use them because you don't believe in them,
just say it.
Just say it. Like, but I can't teach it. No, my girls can do cleans and they've done cleans for a long time. Like you can teach them how to do cleans. Like it's not, you know, when they were younger, it's not that difficult. You either don't believe it or don't understand it. And that's okay, but don't use that as a cop out. Mm-hmm. So Wednesday, now this is something I took from Coker. We're doing 2 max effort movements and that we're rotating weekly. That first max effort movement, we're rotating weekly. And so we might do a close grip incline week 1. We might do a floor press week 2. We might do a dead bench week 3. We might do a reverse band week 4. And we're working up, depending on the year, triple, double, or single.
And you'll rotate back through those in the next 4 weeks?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then the second movement, now that's volume driven. Because what I found is with the upper body, you got to hit it with volume. Like you got to, the upper body can handle twice as much volume as the lower body. And so that's when we go back and we're doing a variation of gym stuff, you know, but it's higher volume. It's higher volume. And then after that, we might throw in a rep out. So like a combine style, mm-hmm. you know, 135, 185, 225, depending on whatever. But it's more volume. And then we finish that up with a bodybuilding circuit. We'll pick 4 exercises and just blow them up, you know, 8 minutes, get them a pump, get them feeling good, and then we're done.
Okay.
And so the upper body day is very much powerlifting style. The reasoning behind that is because we only bench really 1 day a week. You know, we'll do some push-up stuff on the front end of those days in kind of a circuit style just to get them warmed up. You know, like we don't do a ton of like weight room movement prep. We'll do some low-level plyos, pull-ups, and push-ups on the front, and then we get into whatever we're doing. I get to when we clean, we'll go through a barbell complex, empty bar complex, just to get them loosened up. But then it's go time.
We live in some crazy times right now where there's not a day that I don't go on the internet and I see some BS crap about this research study or this research study. This isn't new. I've been in this industry for 4 decades. One thing that's helped me is 8 years ago, the mass research review started and became a godsend. The mass research team are professional researchers that are also meatheads. So they've done this great job of being able to take all these topics and put them into this research review that I get every month. I'm excited to partner with them. I spoke with Eric Helms about this on the podcast. It's simple, it's easy. They're offering a 20% discount to all podcast listeners. The code is elitefts20. When you join, you get the research review, which is going to be sent to you every single month. That has 7 to 9 articles in there. The archive, which is 1,500 articles, thousands of videos. Just head over to massresearchreview.com and use the code elitefts20. The link will be in the description.
You know,
So how many of your, because if you're starting at 12, it's junior high, right?
Yeah.
6th grade.
yeah.
Where are you starting the pull-ups at? I'm going to assume not one of these kids is able to do a pull-up.
At that level, there's not many.
So where
Not
do you
many.
regress that to?
We'll go hangs or holds,
Okay.
you know, just like the flexed arm hang.
Mhm.
We'll also regress it to a body row, an inverted row,
Mhm.
you know, so that's kind of, we'll start that from a isometric hold standpoint. Then we'll work some eccentrics, and then over, you know, again, that 9-week block, the idea is that we're progressing even more closer to do a pull up, but it might take that junior high get 3 years.
Okay. But that regression model
Yes.
working.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And again, at the place I'm at, we're in the early, we're probably a year and a half into that. So we haven't really, I feel like you need 3 to 4 years to really see that, you know.
Well, I ask
you know.
because I think the pull-up or chin-up is a good indicator of athletic ability.
Absolutely. it
Right,
is.
because it kind of tells you that if they're too fat, not
Yep,
too fat.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's DeFranco used to say
Yeah.
one of the main indicators that he had in there. But I've seen, so we all see the same thing. Very
Mhm.
few kids can actually do them. Then you see all these different regression models,
Right.
and most of them don't work.
No.
They end up not being on like.
Yeah. And so, for example, we used to do the bands,
Mhm.
you know, band assisted. That, I don't really like that. I'll tell you something that I do like, and I've done it with our girls, with our volleyballers, is a jump and pull up. We'll do a jump and pull up and then a slow eccentric on the way down,
Mhm.
and just slowly increasing that volume over the semester. I would say over 50% of our girls can do at least one pull up now. And, you know, so the idea is to get them to do 5
Mhm.
over the next, like I said, it takes about 4 years. So by the time these freshmen are seniors, my goal is for them to do 5 pull-ups.
Is this
you know.
underhand, overhand? What?
Neutral grip is what I
Okay,
like.
all right.
You know, neutral grip is what I like. But you're right. I feel like it's a great indicator of just their overall development as an athlete.
Well,
And-
have you seen with that as well that when they can finally do it?
Oh, dude,
that
it's through the roof.
higher than you've seen with like a bench and a squat.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
that's what I've seen. It's like the biggest
Yep.
ego boost
Yes.
that they can get.
100%, you know, and that's something else that I touch on is that, and this is why I love, call it conjugate. You know, the style of training that we do.
Yeah.
Is
Concurrent.
Yeah. Concurrent.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yes. Every time they come in the weight room, they have an opportunity to break a personal record, whether it's a jump, whether it's 1 more rep, 5 more pounds, whether it's a pull up, they have an opportunity to PR every time they come in. And you think about what it does to their confidence and what it does to their mental ability. It's through the roof. And then you can use that on them. Like, hey, you've done A, B, C, and D. There's no reason you can't go on a court and do what you need to do out there. Look at what you've progressed. And so that's how you tie it into their sport, is you get their success in the weight room to now carry over to what they're doing out there. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had someone come in, Coach, I'm jumping so much higher now. Coach, I'm hitting the ball. I'm talking about volleyball. My freshman volleyball girl's phenomenal. But they'll come in, Coach, I'm hitting the ball harder. I'm jumping higher. And then because we measure that, you can show them. And so now they're excited about movements that actually carry to their sport.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So then how, with the accessories on that day, how do they, Would it be safe to say it's kind of junk volume, that it's not? How do they progress the accessories over the 3 weeks?
Volume typically, we'll start out at like 3 sets of 10, then we'll go 12, 15, maybe.
Now, are you
18 or
asking them to
20.
go to failure, or?
With that stuff, yeah, we can.
Yeah,
With that stuff, yeah. I mean, because again, I wouldn't say it's junk volume. It's just,
It's necessary, but it can be pulled if needed.
I mean, yeah, we're talking face pulls. We're talking, single leg stuff. And that's not junk. I mean, that's vitally important, but, face pulls, push downs, shoulder raises, things like that,
Where do the lats come in?
Well, we do that primarily rows and pull-ups.
Mhm.
I mean, that's all we have right now is a row variation where it's dumbbell, barbell, trap bar. I've gotten big into trap bar rows. I've been over trap bar row. But then we're also doing as many pull-ups, on the front end, and then we'll pair that also at the end as well.
Now, the pull-ups, are they on all 3 days?
As a warm-up, yes.
Okay.
Yes, as a warm-up, yes. We're at least going to hit them on Mondays and Fridays as a warm-up. And then that Wednesday, we might sprinkle them in at the end, with that upper body stuff.
All right, then how does Friday look?
So Friday is cool because Friday used to be Big Squat Friday. It used to be, we're going to load the bar, we're going to go heavy. What I found is, again, least effective dose. Our back squats have been for speed and power versus for amount of weight on the bar. And so we'll start that. And this is something that I did this year. We start with a power clean above the knee off the rack. And it's quote unquote dynamic. So we're moving the bar as fast as we can, catching it tall. Again, why? Because we're at that higher joint angle. We're going to get transference to the jumps. Now, we're doing it fast because if you look at the research that they found out, and this is probably 15, 20 years ago at Mizzou with Brian Mann and Pat Ivy and all them, they figured out that the speed of the clean had the more transference to the jump versus the actual weight. So they're just matching velocities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're trying to do with the clean. We're going to train it heavy on Monday, max effort. And then we're going to train it fast on Friday to achieve that velocity.
Now, are you measuring that?
We have. I've got the units. I've kind of gotten away from it just because it becomes.
No, it's time.
Yeah, exactly. Like last year we measured everything. Like we're measuring fast stuff. We're measuring heavy stuff. We're measuring Olympic stuff. But it just becomes data. You just get drowned with data. So now.
Did it change anything that you were doing?
No, most of the time that technology piece just reinforces that we're on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I would say the 2 things we consistently measure every week is sprints and jumps. And that's the data. I know, like our sprints have not plateaued yet. Our kids, in the 2 years I've been to school I'm at, their speed, our kids are running times I've never seen before on the lasers. And our track coach is going, Monty, when are we going to plateau? I'm like, I don't know. I thought we plateaued last year, but we're running stuff I've never seen.
Yeah.
And so now I need to look at our jumps. Our jumps are okay this year, but they're not as good. They're not as good as they were last year. I have a theory. I think it's because we've kind of regressed to back squat. We're not going as heavy, but I'm okay with it because our speed is we're still climbing. Now, if our speed dip too, then I think that's a red flag. Then you got to look at, well, what's going on here. But the other thing I've done that I think has really helped our cleans out is we added bands. We added one single red band to that clean. And so now you've really got to be intentful.
And this is the ones that are off the pins?
Yeah.
So is there tension when they start?
Absolutely.
All right. So what do you think the tension is on when they start?
Oh, God, I don't know. 40 pounds, 30
Yeah,
pounds,
it can't,
maybe.
it's
hard.
And it can't be. I'm just thinking how much that's about what a bench would be, right? Where they're going to start, like a low bench, actually, probably for you, like a one board.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So it's
probably at the bottom.
like 30, 40. Yeah. Right. 30.
Because of what, it's 80 at the top.
Yeah.
So yeah, somewhere right there. But then when they catch at the top, they better
That's
be
high,
ready.
man.
Yeah, they better be ready to receive the bar. Now, the other thing we haven't talked about is the reason I do the clean is not for the force and the physics part of it. It's a max effort movement. Like I want them to be strong. Like if you can move the bar 300 pounds from the floor to your upper body, you're freaking strong. That I can transfer through our sprinting, our plyometrics, and the faster stuff that we're doing to get the transference to the field. So I'm okay if the bar is not that fast then, but on Fridays, we're going as fast as we can. And we're also on the last, I would say 4 weeks, now we're up in the weight. Now it becomes kind of circa max-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like we're working singles and it's how high can you get for that week?
So when you were tracking this through those weeks, on the first week where it seems the emphasis and intent
Yes.
was more on that speed.
Yes.
Where, if you were to guess an average, what was the meters per second on the first week?
On the first week, I tell them we want to be 1.8 or higher.
Okay.
But that's peak. It's not because we're using peak with the Olympic stuff.
Yeah. Now, when you get to that fourth week now, when it's
probably
heavy,
like, it's probably 1.5.
Okay.
You know, I mean, we haven't measured it, but I'm guessing it's probably 1.5 peak, or maybe even, I don't know if you can go lower than that, 1.3 maybe. But I mean, it's slower for sure. And a lot of times they're catching it in the bottom, which I don't want. I want them to really work on that hip extension and to catch it taller. So we stay in the joint angles, right? But that's not, I haven't done a good job measuring the heavier stuff.
Okay. Then that same variation will stay in for the 9 weeks, or will you switch it out?
No, that
That
will stay
stays,
in,
and it's just the load.
And it's just a load that we kind of wave through.
Yeah.
And that's just really because we don't have another I mean, I say that.
There's always one, but
There's always a variation, and that's the other thing. If it's working, why am I going to change?
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
that's the thing. Another thing people forget is don't change just because of change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can sit here and give you like we can come up with 20 variations right now.
Yes.
Like, don't use the pins, use blocks. I mean, there's
Right.
go lower, go higher.
Yeah.
Change the bands. There's always kinds of
There's
shit.
always
But
a
if
var-
it's
you're right.
working,
You're right. Now, one thing I do want to play, talk about variations. I want to go reverse band. Because I've got some kids, and here and this is some new stuff. I've got some kids that are moving some weight that kind of scares them a little bit. And so what's the point of the future method, right? It's handle heavier loads.
now with that cleaner, are you going to have it kick off before they have to?
Well, that's the idea is where do you set the band up so you get enough overspeed that they can complete the movement. I don't want the band on the whole time.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment because we do read the comments, and one of them that keeps popping up more frequently than not is, I can't believe this video doesn't get more views. Take a minute to subscribe, leave a comment, and share. It really does help.
Yeah, I know, but
You know
see,
what I
that's where the issue can come is as soon as that band comes off and they're doing multiple reps,
Well,
is the band going to land in the same place?
well, there's reset every time. And so,
No, but you see what I'm saying? As soon as you come up and as soon as
Right.
they duck under, if that band comes off, that band may move out 2 inches, right? So
we've experimented a little bit with that, and it hasn't
moved.
it hasn't been an issue
Okay.
in the little bit. And I said there's been like a day or two. Hey, let's throw some reverse bands on. Let's see what it looks like. And I mean, the kids like it because they can handle more weight. You know?
Sure.
And that's really, it's not that I'm trying to elicit a technical response. It's trying to elicit a mental response. Because, I mean, there's, 3 plates on the bar for a first time. It can mentally, mess you up. 5 plates, I've been lucky in that I've been able to get past that with some lifts. And what I mean by that is when I squatted 1,000, I didn't have 1,000 on my back. The most I'd had 965. I benched 800 at a local meet. I'd never touched in that shirt. And so how do we get that in our kids I've never done this before. How do we do this? This number scares me. How do we do this? And so that's where I'm starting to look at that from the band standpoint.
Mm-hmm. So on that Friday, then are the accessories the same as Monday?
No, on Friday, typically we'll clean and we'll squat and that's it. We'll clean and we'll squat and that's it. And that comes down to a time thing. Because we'll do like six sets in the clean, and then we'll do 8 to 10 sets in the squats, but it's more dynamic effort in the sense that now we're looking at bar velocity. Now we're looking at how fast are you moving the weights. Now, we will also do max effort stuff on that day too from a partial range of motion. Does that make sense? Like that has kind of been, I won't say haphazard because there's been thought into it, but there is a rotation. And I don't know that I can explain it yet because this is the first off season we've done it to where we focus more on that partial range movement to get the carryover to the sprints and jumps. Does that make sense? So like, for example, our big guys will focus on more speed squatting. Our skill guys have focused more on partial range, max effort stuff.
So what is the partial
so
range? I mean, give me some movements that you're talking about.
We'll rotate, like we rotated between a 3/4 squat, double leg, a high trap bar deadlift.
So with that double leg 3/4 squat, how are you measuring that? Is that a box? Is it off pins? Is it just
pins?
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't, like, we've got the benches, but we don't have any. So when I say 3/4 in the squat, it's going to be off pins.
Okay, so it is the same rep.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
that's where I was going.
I got you. I'll be honest. I'm not even calling it a box squat. We use a squat to a bench with our big guys in season, just because of the increased recoverability of that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. This past season, I took the bar completely off the back of our skill guys. We did trap bar deadlift and some single leg accessories as our primary lower body movement. And again, that's something I stole from Jim that he did with his guys. And that worked out really well for our skill guys. It worked out really well. So I'm going to continue that with them this fall. I'll still probably do some kind of squat with our big boys. I haven't got there yet. Again, like I'm looking at what am I doing June 1st? I'll look at what we're doing in the season when we get there. You know what I mean? So, back to the box squat thing. I haven't done it because I haven't had the time to teach it the way it needs to be taught, because I don't want this internet stuff where they're crashing on the box,
yeah,
where they're getting the rocking and they're trampolining off of it. Like, I don't want that. So, but we'll use it as a depth guide, and then we will use it just as a, you say to break the eccentric concentric, but it's more just as an easier movement to use with those guys. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If your world changed, you're only working with 3 guys, right? And then you had access to whatever you needed, right? Yeah. Because when you're a high school strength coach, there's a lot of things that are going on that I don't think people that haven't seen it or been around it understand. You have 50 kids in a weight room. You got to control the weight room. You got all these other variables.
Well, and you're pigeonholed by what you have in the weight room.
You're also, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
Pigeonholed by the equipment that you have and the equipment that you like to get that you can't get, all the other variables that play into all that. So let's strip out all that away.
Okay.
Right. And then you only got 3 guys, but you have access to whatever you need to be able to train those 3 guys.
Perfect world.
What do you change about what you're doing now?
Are those 3 guys linemen? Are they skill guys?
Well, let's oh shit. You
know
what? Let's say it's man, do you a linebacker?
Oh, okay, a hybrid guy.
So yes, let's go in the middle.
Okay, a hybrid guy. Okay.
Inside linebacker.
Okay, inside linebacker. In season or off season?
Off season. 12 weeks.
Off season, 12 weeks.
None of this is gonna ever happen.
It's not. They're probably still gonna clean. Their squat, let's go to the bench. They're going to bench with some kind of, we're going to rotate a fat bar, multi-grip bar. We'll probably go back and forth between those two. We'll probably do the fat bar for dynamic stuff, multi-grip for max effort stuff.
The bench would still be better than the snatch that you were doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, okay. For the lower body, we're probably doing like a Hatfield Mars bar, rotated with a trap bar, rotated with a belt squat. If I had a power squat, that might be the fourth rotation. Okay. And then, I mean, that's clean bench and squat. That's probably that's probably how I would do it in a perfect scenario. Yeah, because with the Mars and the safety bar, now you've got infinite number of variations. It takes the shoulders out of it, so I'm not worried about beating their shoulders up. We can still clean heavy. Now, I take that back. We're going to have a straight bar because I still want to keep the front squat in. So we're going to rotate front squat, Mars bar, safety bar, trap bar. Okay. So, and then we'll deload with the belt squat if we have to, or we might throw the belt squat in restoratively on Friday for our velocity stuff. You know, we'll still clean fast, belt squat for recovery. And then probably throw in a inverse leg curl just to get the hamstring stuff.
Where are you getting that now? The hamstring work?
I'll be honest, we don't do a lot of direct hamstring work. I would say our hamstring work comes from high velocity sprinting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing about the high velocity sprinting is it inoculates our hamstring. Like we don't have any pulled hamstrings, none. And I think it goes back to the high speed sprinting that we do twice a week.
So we didn't get into that. So how's that laid out? Because that's Tuesday and Thursdays, right?
That's yes. And so typically what we'll do, like I said, we'll clean a squat on Monday. Tuesday is always kind of a down day. We're still sprinting, but it's more to satisfy that half-life of you've got to sprint every 3 to 5 days. And it also keeps them greasing the groove of sprinting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so lower intensity?
No.
So,
We're still lasers. We're still measuring it the whole, but they're only running 3 max.
Okay.
Typically it's 2. The only time they'll run a third one is if their second one is faster than their first one, then and they're in their range of PRing, I might let them hit a third. But most of the time it's 2 and then we're done because they're moving on to whatever they're doing. Tuesday, Thursdays, like I said, the past 8 weeks have been skill work. So they go run their 2 sprints, then they go their individual, what they're doing for that day with football stuff. Thursday, and this has been really cool, and this has been consistent the past 2 years. Thursdays have been our best speed days all year. Our best speed days. I'll tell you why. I think I know why. The upper body potentiates the running on Thursday. The heavy benching, because we heavy bench on Wednesday year round, whether it's in season or off season, we're benching on Wednesday. We're also running sprints on Thursday year round. So on game week, if we play on Friday, we're running fast on Thursday. Now, if we have a Thursday game, then we'll run fast on Wednesday, but those Wednesday times are never what the Thursday times are. It's crazy. I can show you data for 2 years.
Well, I get the Tuesday, right? Because you got lower.
You kind of got the interference,
right?
And there's no around that. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, but
the Thursday makes sense, but when you move it to Wednesday, it's not there. That gets, unless Monday's taking longer to recover from than what you would think.
Which it could be, I mean,
they're young kids,
but and that's the thing. Like they're young. It's consistent. You know what I mean? Like they're used to that volume.
Mm-hmm.
But Tuesday's never as good as Thursday. And I think it's because we bench on Wednesday. Some other podcast, I need to go back and find it, but they made the comment that the upper body potentiates the lower body. And then conversely, like your throwers, because you've heard this, they'll go hit a heavy squat workout and then go hit a PR throw. The lower body potentiates the upper body. So that's the next thing I want to check with our throwers. next track season, go in and hit a heavy squat, and then go see if you can PR your shot put and disc.
That's still a lot of lower body though, with the shot and the disc.
But the volume's low, the intensity's high,
Mhm.
right? You know, it's not like you're doing, let's say you do 7 singles. Like that's not that muscularly taxing. Now the argument could be made, maybe it's neurologically taxing, but is that where you get the potentiation from? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So again, I haven't gone down that. I can't explain it to you deeper than that.
Yeah. Well, it's for me, it's kind of rough because if you have kids in the age range that you're speaking about that are beyond just basic training, they're in some condition.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So you still have to get the kids into just a basic condition. It's really hard to fuck them up. It really is, because they're so young, they're going to recover from anything. They're going through puberty.
That's the blessing and the curse of the high school athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Is the blessing is everything works. The curse is that everything works. And that's why you have teams that will train unsoundly, but are constantly at the top, is because their talent level overcomes their preparation level.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem with what you see on social media, is you have all of this unsound training that's being promoted, but there's no negative effects from it. But we know it's unsound because we're in the field. And I think that's the reason the high school strength coach concept hasn't hit globally like it needs to, because there hasn't been this epidemic of injury XYZ.
Well, here's a question I have for you that I've always wondered, probably need to start asking more the high school strength coaches I have out, is when you look at the things that we would see,
right,
online, do your kids even care? Are they even watching that? Or are they watching, you know what I'm saying? Like most of them they're young athletes, right? I'm going to assume they're watching like football shit or volleyball shit, and they're not seeing like gym influencer, strength coach crap.
I think it depends on where you're at. I think it depends on the school that you're at. Does that make sense? Like, because our kids, sport is not their top priority. It's not. It's work, it's family, it's some other cultural.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may be a couple of schools I was at before. Yeah, they're watching that stuff going, hey, they're doing this over here. Why aren't we doing this?
What percentage of the kids, though, even in that case?
10%.
Do you see what I'm saying?
10%.
Like, I think
you're right.
I think we're worrying about something that doesn't even need to be worried about. And that is, social media is screwing up all these young athletes because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm thinking in my head, let me see the kid's phone and go through their feeds.
Yeah.
And I'm going to probably guess they're not seeing any of this shit, because most of the training they're doing is for their sport.
Right.
They're not meatheads.
No, they're
right?
not.
Some will be.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, they're probably going to find all that stuff because they're the same way you did.
Right.
I did and everybody else, but that's a small minority, man.
Sure. But it's not that the kids are getting messed up. It's that there's not the filter with the coaches that this is bad training. Does that make sense? Like,
yes and no, where most of the coaches, the strength coaches that are in the public sector, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, they're on social media, but not a lot, man, because they don't have the fucking time.
That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. I'll show you my feed where there's coach after coach after coach after coach after coach.
Oh, are they fucking training people? I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah.
When I get that the coaches have downtime, you get what I'm saying? It's there's two factors at play here.
I'm actually too busy training to worry about posting stuff.
Because I remember because we sell equipment to you guys. I mean, that's how we fund all the education.
Right.
And I learned early on, I'm not going to get a hold of any coach unless it's like 8:00 at night. Like they're doing all.
Sure.
Actually, sometimes it needed, if it was a private sector,
Yeah.
it had to be later than that because they weren't getting home until after that. Right. So it's getting a hold of them is one thing. Right. Because
Yeah.
they're not sitting behind their computer all the time. Now, when they have
Right.
downtime, it's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
And they are now probably on there more so than others. The other thing that happens is because of that, it's hard for them to get traction to be able to spread what they do. Right. So and you can, when I'll research you guys, I'll go to podcasts that you've been on before.
Sure.
These are not big podcasts.
No, they're not.
They're small podcasts.
Yeah, they
and and they're being viewed by that
niche. Sure.
Right. Which is getting the information they need to get through that niche.
Sure.
But it's not getting out to that bigger niche.
Right.
Which could be the potential coaches that are going to come in later.
Right.
But I tend to think that's not how this works, where the potential coaches that are going to come in are in and around that niche. Does that make sense? So the coaches that are seeing all the stuff that you're talking about probably don't even work in the sector, won't work in the sector, or will be out of the sector really quick.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I'm not in that sector, right? So I don't know.
Right.
I just know it's hard for that sector to become influencers, right? Because they don't care, because what they care about is there's athletes' performance, right? And the time it would take for them to be able to try to get out into that sector is smaller than they think. Or, I don't know.
I would argue at the high school level, there's a spirit of, because I've been guilty of it too, posting the next cool thing and promoting your program and self-promotion, to me, in the high school realm, I think is as high as it's ever been, because everybody wants to put out what they're doing, because everybody wants to say, look at what we have, look at what we're doing, look at all the cool stuff we're doing. Now at the higher levels, maybe there's less of that, but I still think there's an element of promotion, because now you're looking at recruiting. And so now you have to show off your program from a social, because that's where your top recruits are. They're going to be on social media. And so I do think that there is a higher volume of unskilled training that's happening on social media that is not getting critiqued. I don't know if critiqued is the right word. There are no consequences of it. If anything, it's being rewarded by comments or likes or views. And there's no repercussions, because the kid doesn't, there's not a negative effect now. But what happens 5 years down the road? What happens 10 years down the road? Does that negative effect show up in the form of an injury? That maybe the genesis was that good morning rounded back box squat that they did in high school. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess to bring it back to what we were talking about, the high school athlete is a very, very resilient individual. And I do think that we can do better, or I think there needs to be a better way of quality control with what's happening at that level. And I think the reason that hasn't happened is because you haven't had that catastrophic injury, or you haven't had that major episode that causes people to look into what is happening at the high school level.
All right. So if we look at, you're in a state with probably more high school strength coaches than any other state I could think of.
Yeah, I think so.
So if we were to guess, how many high school strength coaches do you think are in Texas?
Man, I should know that number, but I don't.
That can be a loose guess, like 100, 200.
I'd say 300.
So 300.
I would say 200 to 300 maybe. Yeah.
All right. So out of the 300, what percentage of them do you think are posting this type of stuff online?
Hopefully not very many. And
you'll see where I'm going here.
Yeah, I see where you're going. I think who's posting the other sport coaches.
Mm-hmm. Well, what percentage though? What?
I would say it's a high percentage of sport coaches. I think the schools that are posting this are the schools that don't have strength coaches. Because I think if they have a strength coach, they're going to be a lot less likely to post a questionable activity.
So when you talk about, give me an example of questionable activities.
Okay. Scarecrow clean, where they catch the clean and their feet are way out. And, you know, it looks like a starfish clean, maybe. It might be a better. And typically that's when you see it is like with the clean stuff. Or they post some circuit that's, you know, involving a barbell or doing a bunch of just sloppy movements.
Are these like the motivational things?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But I mean, or they'll post the kid bouncing off the bench box with 600 pounds and calling it a good lift. You know, it's like, yeah, he can do that once, but what happens on the 5th time? And not of that session, but let's say, you know, the kid maxes out 4 times a year. What happens on the 4th time he does that, you know, or she does that?
I guess what I'm asking is because I can remember, and I don't see him as much anymore because I'm not on my feed.
Yeah.
Most of the shit on my feed anymore is just like AI agent shit. But I remember watching, I call them like the hype videos.
Yeah.
And they always would drive me fucking crazy, right? Because it would be one kid squatting 700 pounds, right? And then the whole fucking team is behind him yelling.
Oh, yeah.
There's not one side spotter on either side, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking at this as a fucking meathead. Like, not one of you fucking guys can stand on a side. And they're not in the rack. They're on the outside of the rack.
Yeah.
It's like, this is fucking stupid, right? And it's like, why does this even happen? It's recruiting. I get all that, right? And then when I would visit different schools, I never saw shit like that. It's like, okay, this is put together for like one day, a max out section. The media fucking team comes in and films it. And then, I'm not saying that there's not shitty training out there, but I don't think that those things represent, if it's 300, you know, most of the schools aren't posting stupid shit like that. And most of the practices aren't that way. It's like when I'll tell people just about social media in general, right? Most of the people who are on social media are lurkers. They never post. Right. But we think everything that we see is the opinion of the majority. Yeah. It's actually a very, very small vocal minority. And then we form this thing like all high school strength coaches are shitty because of this vocal minority. But then when you actually get in the space and see what most people are doing, it's not that. And that's kind of true with everything on social media that I've seen.
I don't disagree with that.
And it's easy to get caught up.
I don't disagree. Yeah. Now I'm going to be biased and say we do a great job in Texas with I feel like our Texas high school strength coaches are really, really good. The ones that I interact with, that I talk to all the time, you know. I do think there's a population out there that could do better. But I agree with what you're saying, that sometimes we get influenced by just what we see, and that may be the minority.
Well, if that's the slapdicks that you're talking about, I would have to think are one of two reasons. You know, it's either ignorance, you know, they just
which is probably the majority of them. Yeah.
Or it's for some marketing type of reason.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Those two. And because the profession as a whole is they're not doing it for money, right? It's
no, it's not. It's
like nobody's going to be a high school strength coach because they think it's going to lead to this fucking multi-million-dollar fucking job. Right?
No, you're right.
They're doing it for the right reasons. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
right?
That's fair. Yeah,
Because
that's
I think we're beyond the, hey, we need a volunteer to
Yes.
come in.
No, absolutely.
Or the coach
Yes.
that's doing it as a side gig. It's grown. It still happens, right? But it's grown
Yes.
a lot since you first started
No,
training.
yes, no, and it's grown, I would say in the past 6 years, it's grown tremendously. But would you agree that there should be a high school strength coach in every high school?
Yes, but that's probably not going to be the case.
Is there an athletic trainer in every high school?
Well,
I would say in Texas, yes.
interesting, right? Because
So if there's a high school trainer in every, why is there not a high school strength coach?
well, what's happening in some states is the trainers and the strength coaches are now being positioned by insurance companies. Because
Why is that?
well, you know why that is.
Yeah.
Because these are lead sources, where if
Yeah.
X Health is providing the strength coach to the school at a better salary than what the school could, right? The school's not going to say no.
Right.
Then any small little injury is going to be referred to X Health for being able to provide that. And that started with the athletic trainers, right?
Right.
That was before the strength coaches,
Right.
where it's like good and bad, right? It's good because now you have strength coaches that can get a job at a school that otherwise probably couldn't afford
Right.
to have that coach. It's
Right.
bad because who's paying them, right? And
Why
so
are
that's
athletic
why
trainers there in the first place? So because they're there to address what injuries, right? Is it because injuries that happen
used to be.
Yeah. Take the money out of it. Take the,
Yes.
at their root cause, they're there because there's an increased potential for injuries to happen in sport, right?
Well, of course, yes. And they're
Now, what's the job of the strength coach?
to prevent injuries and to get people strong. Actually, no, to get them to perform better on the field. There's a lot of reasons why to have a strength coach, but what is the reason why they're positioned by the administration to have winning seasons?
Because, well, I would say to provide quality training that addresses the injury reduction and also to promote quality practices in the weight room so your kids aren't getting injured in the weight room.
Well, yes. I mean, the weight
Right.
room would be the most dangerous classroom in the school.
I've said that. Yeah.
I mean, what's worse? Maybe chemistry if something blows up.
Yeah. I mean, you can,
They're not going to drop a Bunsen burner on their foot and have a problem.
so if we have athletic trainers on the field because that's dangerous and they're qualified, why do we not have strength conditioning coaches in the weight room where we just said it's the most dangerous room on campus? Why is there not a qualified individual in every weight room, but there is an athletic trainer in every school? I think it's because you haven't had this epidemic or catastrophicness of injuries that goes back to high school kids are resilient. They can overcome a lot of really bad training. Now, where you get a taste of that is in these cases that are popping up where kids get rhabdo because they've been exposed to extreme, I don't even say extreme, just improper training.
Mm-hmm.
And so in those cases, those districts 100% have injected a strength coach or employed somebody that's qualified. But that's not nationally. That's not even state. Like you just haven't seen this epidemic of compressed disc, blown out backs, dislocated, whatevers in weight rooms, rhabdo, because high school kids are resilient. They are. But how many kids do we know that have torn an ACL on a football field or blown out I blew out my shoulder in high school? Like injuries in sport happen regularly. And so thus you got to have somebody to address that, right? Whereas in the weight room, there just hasn't been this consistent need for a qualified individual because of negligent training.
Yeah.
You're starting to see a little, and that's why I think that's why I think there's not a strength coach in every high school, because high school kids, you're able to do a lot of bad stuff with them and still get quality results.
With the budgets, a lot of them have to work with, the economics have to support it.
And
right? So there's no,
but in those schools, they still have an athletic trainer.
I know, but what is the, I get it, but
You know what I
what's the
mean?
negative economics from not having somebody there
And that
from the rhabdo,
right,
from the school?
right.
Really nothing.
No,
You know, so.
but that's what I'm saying is like there just hasn't been that need or quote unquote. So until that happens, you're gonna have to deal with these people that aren't really.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
any profession,
Yeah.
right? All professions are going to have the same
Yeah.
issues, scenarios, and so forth. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, there's ass hats in every.
But they still demonstrate a level of quality, though, at least base knowledge, right?
You think? Let's just look at personal training across the board.
Well, they've got to have some kind of
fucking 1 day certification and maybe CPR and first aid.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I'm saying? And they'll go into a gym and train people who are 80 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
I'm not in that world at all. I don't know anything about the personal training stuff. I just, again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. That resiliency piece of the high school kid, I think has hindered the advancement of the high school strength coach.
Sure. I would agree because if you look at the next level, right?
Right.
Then you have them. Right. Why? Because now they have a 3, 4, or 5 year training age.
Exactly.
And they're older and the resilience begins to drop the older somebody get interesting, right? You get into the level higher,
right?
You know, the professional level.
Right.
They got more than just the strength coach, man.
You got everything.
Why?
Yes.
Because the resiliency has dropped.
Well, and there's a higher financial
of course.
Financial burden because that athlete's making X amount of dollars or whatever, you know, now you got to keep them on the field so you get your money's worth, you know?
Yep. Well, that's funny though, because when you look at that scenario and you look at the high school scenario, the main objective of the training is finding the minimal effective dose.
Right. Absolutely.
At both end extremes.
At both ends.
Kind of interesting, right? Yeah. So then why is the middle so fucking, you know, you get with, it's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Were there any topics you wanted to go over I didn't bring up?
Dude, we covered a lot. We didn't really get into powerlifting that much.
So. Yeah. So what, with your powerlifting, what is the one lift that you recover? I know it's a stupid question and everybody asks it.
Yeah.
But it's also, I found that there is. What's the one lift that you remember the most? Because as you were coming up, if you were anything like everybody else, there were people around telling you, you know, when you're on your deathbed, this isn't going to mean shit. You're not going to remember any of this. And someday you will be on your deathbed. I'm guarantee 1 or 2 of the things are going to pop into your head.
Yeah.
What is it?
I would probably say in 2005, 2006, 2005, USPF bench deadlift nationals down in Austin. It was it was a bench only deal. And I think I benched 595. But then they had another 3 attempt unlimited bench contest afterwards for money. But it was guys against girls. And it was coefficient. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is the first meet I think my wife, she was my girlfriend, I think at the time, had went to. And so I'd already benched 595 single ply. So I put on double ply and I hadn't touched in it. And we figured it out. I'm not going to tell a meet promoter, but he had brought in a ringer girl to win this money. And we'd figured out I had to bench 650. So first attempt, not even close, like 3/4, pressing back up. Second attempt, a little bit lower, but still nowhere near. Third attempt, I'm like, I'm going to let this thing drop and we're going to see what happens. Well, it dropped right out of my hands. Dude. So again, my wife, you know, for her first meet, out of my hands, 650. And that was the first, you know, trying to win some money. And, you know, I was, you know, 308 at that time and she's 100. The girl benching's 160 pounds or whatever. Like just like, the odds are in her favor 100%.
100%.
I mean, it's rigged.
Yeah.
You know, I'll say that.
Yeah.
But I still think like it's a 2-ply. I've been, I can do it. But that's one. And then of course, 1,000 pounds. I mean, that's a big lift.
Did you get that the first time you tried?
First, one only time. It's the only time I had on my back. It's the only time. And then after that, so that was in 2009. So I turned 30 in 2010. And of course, I had my youngest daughter was just born. We moved back to Texas. Life happens, right? That was kind of, but also it was like, what was my goal this whole career was to squat 1,000 pounds.
Oh God, is this another like Wendler story?
Well, no, it's just like, what else? Like I achieved the goal and there was not a next goal after that.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I wanted to ride off into the, like, okay, I'm done. Cause
He was.
Yeah, he was. And that's, yeah, no. But I mean, his total was still better than mine too at that time. But again, I think for me, my identity is that barbell and it's not right. And I know you're going to tell me it's not right. And there's going to be a time when.
I get it.
You know what I mean? And so the grip is slowly loosening, but it's not all the way off yet. And that's what I'm saying. Like I'll be 46 this year. I think there's one more 1,000 to climb.
It never goes away.
I
mean, I call it like true meathead syndrome.
Yeah. I think I'm one of them.
You just have to, for me, the older I've gotten, I've had to become smarter with my stupidity.
Right. Yeah.
Like I still have to have something anchored to train for.
Right.
That's going to be heavy.
Right.
Otherwise, like a single.
Yeah.
Straining, or I wouldn't train at all. I mean, I know that for a fact.
Yeah, because it's blaster dust, right?
I'm fucking 58. I mean, I know this for a fact. If it's not there,
right,
fuck it.
Then why are we
I'll
doing
get my
it?
5,000 steps a day or whatever, and that's it. And it's a different thing.
Right.
You find different things to go after that fill that.
And so that's kind of the shift. Like I'm not squatting heavy anymore. I'm not deadlifting. Who cares about that? But the bench is still something I'm hanging on to because it's relatively, it's not as intense. So you can kind of push it a little bit longer, And so that's kind of how I'm satisfying that right now. And there's a piece like, I don't need to be this big, like big dogs die early.
Well, yeah.
So
that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is because again, the moment I start dropping weight, it's not that I can't drop weight. The moment you start dropping weight, what happens?
Oh, I know.
That's what happened. I know we're on those. That's what happened. That was my first taste of that 2006 at that senior nationals. You're going to laugh. I had to cut to 308. That's stupid, right? So I'm cutting from 326, I think, down to 308 because I wanted to get my first elite total. So, had a great squat, but it took me 3 tries to get my bench. And it was even an okay deadlift for me. Not great by any means, but it was okay for me.
Did you get your weight back up before the meet?
Well, so that was the deal, was we had weighed in the day before, 24, but we didn't start until almost 36 hours. So I got the weight back up.
It started to come off. Yeah.
I got it back up, but
no, I get it. It starts spilling, but you want it to start spilling after your squat.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of gone for the deadlift, which helps the deadlift.
Right.
Right. The fat bloated hands for the deadlift.
Which I need all the help I can get in that realm. But yeah, that's another lift that I remember because I had to, we're all the way in Vegas. It's my fiance's there. I've got other family there. It's the biggest meet I've ever done. And I'm on my third bench going, holy crap. Am I going to, number one, I've never bombed at a meet, but am I going to bomb this meet, the biggest meet where I come to get my elite total? But then you figure out a way to get it. And that's, and then I go, get my elite total or whatever. But that's when I made the connection that I cut weight, my bench drops. And so if I'm chasing this bench, well, I can't cut weight because that's what's driving, now you can make an argument, we'll just train smarter and you can kind of drop in increments. And then, so, point being, I've got one more unicorn I want to chase in the back of my mind, you got to make some changes. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'll be 46 this year.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece to that, Donnie hit his biggest total of 46. You know, we talked about Coach Bill. Bill, he hit his biggest bench older than you. So you have these outliers, and they're outliers out there that say, hey, you can still do this into, you know, can I do it to 50? You know, Lou squatted 920 at 52. What? Or 920 at 52?
Yeah, 52 or 54.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, again, there's outliers out there that are still improved.
Do you get your blood work and stuff like that done?
No.
Well, yeah.
No.
So
No.
I would get your blood work done.
I know you were going to say that. I know exactly.
You know, I would get that done. I would look at, you know, the EKG. I would see where your heart is.
Yeah.
You know, I would see at least where your health is.
Yeah.
I mean, Merrick Health, you know.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Description.
Yeah. There you go.
You know, good plug there.
Good plug.
Just to get a good idea so you're ahead of it.
Right.
You know, to be able to know.
Right.
I've seen, because weight's weight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
age is age. It doesn't matter if you're 300 pounds and 10% body fat. You're still fucking
right. You're still
pounds,
300
right?
pounds. Yeah. No,
you know,
no
so
question.
it's, you know, at some point it's going to need to come down, but a
Right.
lot of that's going to be dependent upon where your heart health is,
Yeah.
you know,
And that's
where the blood work is, where all this other stuff is,
right.
and getting a look at that. And there's things that you can do to optimize it,
Right.
and, you know, things that you can do to, I don't know if we can necessarily prevent, even though some people will say you can prevent. I think fate kind of is fate.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
so
to go down that road, like the hairs on our head are numbered. Like,
yeah.
we're going to go when we're going to go,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. But it's, I would at least do the due diligence there because it's easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the way it was 20 some years
Right.
ago. It's really easy.
And that's fair.
Yeah. What is the best way to people to find you?
Yeah. Just on Twitter, Instagram at Monte Sparkman. I mean, that's the easiest way. I'm pretty much out there on social media. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, they can do that. I talk to anybody and everybody, man. It goes back to kind of the live, learn, pass on. You know, so much has been given to me. I want to be able to return that. So I try to answer everything and do all that stuff. So yeah, it's easy.
Thank you. Were there any final thoughts?
Thanks so much. It was awesome.
No, it was great, man. All right. We're going to wrap it up. We're done.